Well, good morning, damn fam. It is Thursday, August 20th, 2026. I'm sorry, I'm just hearing something in my ears. Okay. Sorry, kits and cubs. Just hold on a second. I will be right back. All right. So I'm so sorry about that, damn fam. There was something really weird going on with the computer. It even shut my light off here. Um, okay, that's really weird. I'm having a very weird morning. All right, take two. Mm. Well, good morning, damn fam. Today, recording day is Thursday, August 20th, 2026. And today on the Daily Beaver Morning Show, we'll have a little bit of a story for you. Um, as you know, it seems that we have an agreement of some kind happening between Canada and the United States on trade. And I didn't expect much talking about it, but it seems that there is a lot of talking, which would be a sign that things are a little optimistic. So, as the country starts exhaling and maybe relieving a little tension in the shoulders, one man one man has to come along to not row in the same direction as the rest of the team and sets a standard so ridiculously high that basically it ends up looking like he's setting a trap. And as often happens, especially in politics, he who lays a trap is the one most likely to get ensnared in it. Hmm. Intrigued? Well, then, grab your favorite bevy, pull up a log, and stay a while because here we go.
Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 6 and episode number. I actually have no idea this morning of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, August 20th, 2026. Going to be a little eventful day here at the Beaver Lodge because it's the day the big silver maple in the backyard is coming down. And that's going to be rather interesting to watch. I'm very intrigued to see how the arborist is going to do that. Uh, I, I have a fear of free fall, and this is a very, 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 very tall tree that apparently still has like about 30 meters or so to go to reach full height. So, yeah, I've never seen somebody with ropes and stuff like that get as high as he's going to need to get to take some of those branches off that tree. So it's going to be. Um, it's going to be very it's like I'm having, the learning channel, when it used to actually do learning. It's like I have one of those specials right in my backyard today, so, that's gonna be, really intriguing. It's a lovely day for it here at the Beaver Lodge so far. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, who recently just put out an episode of Grizzly Growl. So I definitely ask you to go take a look at that. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, The Peppermaster, The Misfit Mysteries from Corvin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. As you can tell, Kits and Cubs, it's another frizzy day here at the Beaver Lodge. I tried to go with it this morning with, well, the brush one. So I was thinking, try a little higher the hair, closer the god, 1980s new anchor, big puffy thing, and yeah, it did. By the time I put the headphones in and had to move everything and rebooted and stuff like that, well, this is what I ended up with. Oh well, on fait ce qu'on peut. Uh, hold on, kits and cubs. I think something I'm needed. Oh, my mistake. I thought I heard my beaver sweetie calling me. Um, so how's your mental health today, kits and cubs? I'm doing well. Had a lovely evening. I went out for a dinner with two friends. Had some locally made root beer with my meal, which was actually quite delicious, I have to say, and not ridiculously sweet. Because often with soft drinks, it's so sugary that sometimes you feel your teeth rotting in your head almost. But this was just pleasantly sweetened, and so I had a very lovely meal. And so did our friends. Beautiful conversation. Got back home at a reasonable hour. uh, got to bed early, so I'm feeling good today. Big, like I said, big day here because the trees come down. Probably I have a tennis match later this evening. A little warm up because the big annual singles tennis tournament at our club is coming up, and I am registered to play this year. Last year I couldn't, so this year I am registered to play. Looking forward to see what I can do this year. Uh, so that's it's my jock weekend. Woohoo! So feeling pretty good about that, especially overall the way I've been playing lately. Save last match, which was just this weird thing. Um, but overall, the last few weeks been playing a little better, so hopefully I can carry that into the tournament. So I'm going into it feeling positive, and rather than hoping I won't get bombed off the court. Have no idea who my first round opponent is yet. So The draw hasn't been released, but we have our times. So all I have is my name versus somebody else's name, and I just have a first name. So I'm not. I have no idea who this person is yet. So obviously, given that the tournament starts tomorrow, no time to scout. So I'm just gonna have to figure it out on the court. But yeah, I'm very excited, very happy for it. All right, let's get into it, kits and cubs. Um, First, I was wrong. I assumed that there would be nobody talking yesterday about anything. That it would be a day to do briefings and stuff like that. The prime minister, for example, had a meeting with cabinet. I remember that I think it was Kit Andrea had asked whether or not it would have to go to caucus or something, and I said I wasn't sure, but it would, something would probably go to cabinet. Well, apparently, there was a presentation to cabinet. There was also a meeting with the premiers. I'm going to guess it was a virtual meeting here, so that they could be apprised of what was going on. Uh, Federally, the two leaders from whom we heard the most yesterday were the Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet, who was already framing things without having any possibility of knowing, uh, as being somewhat bad for supply management in Quebec. And we had Pierre Poilievre come out and have a press event. And he decided to do that at 11 o'clock in the morning. And, to get people there, it was called before that. Um, which again was very weird because what could you potentially have to say of substance at 11 o'clock in the morning when you find out at 10:15, all these times Eastern, of course, the night before, that something has been agreed to and nothing is out in the public sphere yet about what may have been potentially agreed to, particularly when the prime minister says he wants to wait for the documents to actually be written to make some major comments about that. Because we know who we're dealing with. Right? Get it in writing. Make sure the check clears before you start doing the work, if you know what I mean. We know who this guy is, right? So, um, we're in a situation at that time where there's no possible way that Pierre Poilievre can have that much insight into what has been agreed to, unless there are members of the Canada US sort of advisory panel that may have more conservative leanings, like James Moore, Lisa Raitt, Aaron O'Toole, who would be sharing information with him. Um, Not sure and that is happening. In fact, I probably would highly suggest that it is not one because he doesn't have the security clearance needed. Not saying that there are security clearance issues with this level of information, obviously, because if there were, nobody on the advisory council would be able to have it. So it's not that it's privileged information to that point, but it is. Uh, More a matter of trust, right? If you could not qualify, or if you don't even want to sit to qualify, uh, to have everybody in the country know that you can obtain NSICOP level security clearance. And we are talking about major negotiations on trade with a nation that has openly expressed a desire for us to no longer exist as a nation. minor detail that certain people just keep on forgetting when we're discussing this. Um, and you're from a political party that seems to be uh, gleefully cheering for uh, the people who are representing this country to fail. And even though the administration south of us is not a credible source of information on pretty much anything, you keep on relying on their version of what is going on rather than the version of what's going on being related by your fellow citizens. Not just your political opponents, but your fellow citizens. Um, Again, you are probably the people on that committee who have a reputation who would like to be invited on more committees like that in the future and get board work where sensitive information is discussed in the future would probably not be good for their future prospects of having that happen if they were giving you someone who is proving himself to be rather untrustworthy and not necessarily fully committed to our own team. Them giving you that information would seem to me would be highly unlikely. There is absolutely nothing in it for them to gain. Particularly Aaron O'Toole. I mean, you kind of stabbed him right between the shoulder blades, didn't you? So, yeah, I don't think that there would be any reason to doubt the commitment and loyalty to keeping that type of information secret by anybody on that advisory panel that happens to have a conservative leaning, right? Um, so there's only one possible thing that you can be doing if you are going up to a microphone to make a statement with so little information and being a person who tends to put on the darkest lenses of possible to view the world through and tell us what your interpretation of not only the world is, but what of our government, which happens to be your political opponent, but again, fellow citizens, uh, are doing for the country. You would frame it in terms of doing to the country. Um, do I lie? Uh, but yeah, it's I don't like I said, I don't think we have anything to worry about that. I think that information is being kept confidential and solid there. Um, so that's sort of the overall setup of the big narrative that happened yesterday. During the morning, because I was watching the coverage that CBC News Network had played yesterday morning of everything that was going on up until the time that Pierre held his press conference. And I'm sorry, trigger warning, we are going to see some Pierre today. We might see a little more of him today than some people can stomach. But there's a very good reason. There's very good reason because he did a couple of things that were and said a couple of things that were interesting. Um, that Oh, well, I think that expression says it all. I mean, what, it's Pierre, and he's got so little to go on at the moment that you know. Uh, he's working with what he got. He's working with what he has, I can say. I'm looking for the file for some reason, and I can't find it. I hope they didn't take it down. No, there it is. Okay. 'Cause a CBC Live, broadcast, so it's not in the sort of basic video clips or anything like that, but given that they, streamed, all morning long, they just put the whole broadcast, so it's actually, 11 hours and 55 it's long. So, yeah, that is, definitely, um, uh well, first of all, I didn't know that you could put a nearly 12-hour, consecutive, video on, on YouTube. So, there you go. Um, there were a couple of interviews, that were, interesting early on in the day, and I wanna bring some of them to you, because this provides some context to what it is that Pierre, had to say. Because we know a little bit more now because people kept on talking throughout the day. But at the time that Pierre chose to come out and speak, right, it's important to know what was in the public sphere then, because it's um, after the fact, it's easier to take everything that we know and that's been said after the fact and, go back and said, well, it's like, all of this, was known. It's like, no, 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 no. It was known on the same day, but it wasn't known before Pierre spoke. And Pierre had no way of knowing, right? So these are the things that get lost over time. So they have to be said when they are fresh, so that hopefully when time passes and people start trying that play, we can somebody somewhere will remember. We'll be able to roll the tape, right? That's the basic reason why we do that. Actually, Pierre recently had a moment like that, and hopefully, I'll be able to find that at some point and bring that to you, where he denied he had ever said something, and turns out that he had. In fact, I think I can actually find that for you today, Kids and Cubs, because if I remember correctly, it was MP Mark Garrettson did a little bit of a video on it. But now I will say this to you, and um, how do I put it? You will instantly know if you have been paying attention that it is a lie. But um, hopefully I can find it. Maybe I can't. Huh, interesting. Um, Pyapaliev claimed in a recent press conference that he had never, never said that he would want to fire the governor of the Bank of Canada. Never, ever. I think you know where this is going, because when Pierre says things, this happens to be a thing in conservatism recently. There's been more examples. Ambassador Doucheface is a perfect example of it, because he got caught in the Netherlands doing the same thing when he was ambassador there, saying something, and then being called out on it, and then said, I never said that. And then roll tape. Here's tape of you saying that thing you are now telling us that you never said. So they lie shamelessly, and they count on us not remembering. They count on us not remembering. They count on us not checking, right? If somebody is lying to you, you know they are lying to you. You tell them, I know you are lying to me. Not only do you tell them that, you tell them, I know you are lying to me, and this is how I know it is a lie. And still, they insist on lying to you. What does that say about what they think about your intelligence? What does that say about the respect they have for you? And this is what I don't understand about this entire movement, right? Politically, uh, or even in the same area that we're in, the podcasting, influencing, whatever, that type of thing. I don't understand outright lying to the people whose trust you've earned somehow. I don't understand that. I don't understand how that um, is a sustainable business model. Now, of course, if you start out your business model by lying to people, I guess it's built on the lie. So I guess that's somehow sustainable. But at some point, most people figure out along the way that they're being lied to. I mean, we're seeing it all over US TV. People who voted Trump once, sometimes even twice, now coming up to, you know, figuring like, my God, gee, how did I get it so wrong for so long? Right? We're getting to that point here. So at this point where Polyev is not doing well, right? Public opinion polls with his caucus, with fundraising, right? We brought you all those numbers a couple of weeks ago in that show, Polls, Polyev, right? He's just not doing well. Why choose strategically? Why choose to come out this early in the game, 11 a.m. in the morning, when people haven't started talking yet, to share your opinion or your insights or something about this? There's no text. Prime Minister hasn't said anything yet to respond to. You only have statements from the White House. You do have that one statement from the Prime Minister, the White House, Donald Trump, saying it's a deal. Prime Minister saying it was, just good progress with much work, more work to do. There were two other statements. I think there was uh, and not an executive order, a proclamation from the United States Trade Representative, and then there was, I believe, a comment that had been made by someone else. But there were just four pieces of information out there, right? And the only thing from Canada was that statement from the Prime Minister. So that's all Polyev had to go on. Why would you do that? When you have all day, there's basically a 3-day period, right? There are some basic boilerplate statements for this. We are encouraged to hear that there has been progress in the negotiations between Canada and the United States. We look forward to hearing more about the details of what has been negotiated. Until such time as those details are available, we wish the very best to the Canadian delegation and hope that the negotiations continue to be productive. You can say that. It doesn't commit you to anything. It shows that you're on Team Canada, if not on Team Government. It doesn't harm anything. Hoping for the good of the nation that the negotiations continue to proceed smoothly, particularly when you're the party that seems to want the deal most badly based on your public pronunciations. I mean, you're the party that says that we would have had the deal already. We already would have had a no tariff deal. Of course, with the caveat that they never say, but that still remains true, that the only one and only no tariff deal that has ever been extended to us from the United States and that has been on offer was 51st statehood. So, again, if the conservatives are still maintaining that that no tariff deal is possible or that they could have achieved it and would have achieved it already, what they are telling us is that we would be on our way to 51st statehood by now. Unless Pierre is suggesting that he has some magical powers to do what no mortal on this planet has been able to do so far. Negotiate a tariff free deal with Trump, which, again, I remind, we have never had a tariff free deal with the United States. Ever. Ask the people in the softwood lumber industry. So I'm not sure how Pierre Poilievre, again, would be claiming, at least with a serious face, that he would be able to achieve what nobody else on the planet has been able to achieve in something that we have never, ever, ever had, ever, with the United States, which is a totally tariff-free deal, right? Nobody asks him that question. Because at least we should have him answer the question. Well, the only tariff-free deal available is 51st statehood. So when you say that, does you mean that's what you would have accepted? Well, no, 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 no. Oh, so then what other path to a tariff-free deal is there, sir? And how would you get there? Oh, we have to build that leverage with all our stockpiles. We need to have a stockpile of oil and a stockpile of critical minerals. We do. The ground that it's in. It's like taking it from here and putting it here doesn't do anything with regard to preferential access, right? It's like, yeah, we dug it all out and it's just sitting here. Who wants it? Right? Now it's there. Yeah, who wants it? Okay, well, pitch in some money to get it out of the ground. Let's do this. Right? This is, first access, first right of refusal doesn't have to be after you've taken it out of the ground, right? It could be to take it out of the ground. It's usually how it kind of works. So to build the kind of leverage, like it doesn't work, right? Because he says all the leverage that he says we need to do this to negotiate. Well, all the leverage that he says that we would need to be able to go into that room and negotiate is leverage that would take decades to build. There is everything he says sounds good. I mean, who doesn't want a zero tariff? Who doesn't want a zero tariff deal with the United States? Who doesn't want a deal that was even better than the best one we ever had, which is not the deal we have now, by the way. right? So when somebody says we're going to get a better deal than we have, right? It's the deal we have now, not the better deal than the best deal we ever had. That's long gone, right? That was about two. We're closing in on 2 deals ago now on that one, right? That's long gone. That is not happening, and there has been no indication from the other side with whom we're negotiating. By the way, the other side gets a vote. Another concept that the people on the conservative side seem to forget exists when they are telling us about all the terrible things that in all the ways that the Carney government is failing us. Um, this you have to these are serious matters. And if you are going to oppose, you have to look like a serious opposition, right? It can't just be knee jerk rejectionism and setting up of traps and being the first to rush to the camera and a microphone to say that the other person has failed. And while we're in these 3 critical days of negotiations, right, you would think that if the long term play is to prove to the Canadian public that you're a government in waiting, that this would not be the time, particularly for criticism. This would be time to express concerns, right? Like the Premier of Quebec did, Christine Frechette, as opposed to the leader of the Bloc Québécois, who's already convinced that we've betrayed Quebec, who, like Pierre, has no way of knowing. She said, because very encouraged that there's a deal, but for Quebec, it's not going to be working for us if we do not get a reduction on aluminium and we do not get a reduction, and that supply management and culture are not protected. BC, no way in hell, booze is going back on the shelves unless we get something about on lumber. Right? Ontario, Doug Ford, no way till they do something about autos. Right? Every province has their thing. They're advocating for it that way, but they're not sitting there going, and my God, this government is just freaking failing us or doing terrible while they're doing this, or we would have done better, right? It's not the time to blend the two. For someone who's so good at compartmentalizing, it's astounding how he doesn't choose this moment to compartmentalize. There's time to take a swing, and there's time to just frickin' be a decent human being. Just like, ah. So this was here. Sorry, let's bring this up here. My word, having trouble today. This is just not cooperating. All right, one more time. All right, here we go. So this is Mark Gerritsen catching Pierre Poilievre in the lie.
Watch this. Earlier this week, Pierre Poilievre said that he never called for the governor of the Bank of Canada to be fired.
You also at one point suggested the Bank of Canada governor should be fired. You can Google the list of nations who fired the central bank chiefs. It's like Zambia, South Sudan, Iran, Egypt. What does it say about your economic education that you want to join that kind of club?
Well, that's just false. So if I could, your comments are just false.
And here's what he said on May the 11th, 2022, during the Conservative leadership race.
The solution is, of course, to fire the gatekeepers. I've already announced that I will fire the governor of the central bank to get inflation under control, but
It's hard to understand how he thought people wouldn't remember that. At the very least, he could acknowledge what he said and admit that it was a mistake. This whole denial routine is wearing thin. And honestly, this isn't the kind of politics people want anymore. People are tired of the deny it today, hope you forget about it tomorrow routine. They want honesty, they want consistency, they want leaders who stand by what they say. We deserve politics that treats people like they're paying attention, not politics that depends on people forgetting. Because the public record exists for a reason, and it deserves to be taken seriously.
And there you have it. Kids
Donald
and Cubs.
Trump has given Canada 3 more.
Whoops. There we go. There you go, kids and Cubs. So yeah, not necessarily the most trustworthy and reliable person, right? So take this. This is sort of like the bath water that everything that comes next is going to bathe in this, and then we'll get to the trap that Pierre laid for the Prime Minister. Moving to the actual trade negotiation side of things for the moment. Couple of really good interviews, like I mentioned, that were out yesterday. And the first one here, I believe, is with William Pellerin, who's an international trade lawyer at McMillan LLP. So I'll just, there's a little bit of a news clip segment beforehand, before the interview, but I'll present the entire segment. That way there's no weird cuts in it for us. Nope. The way around. See, this is lots of trouble today with the computer for some reason. Things just don't want to come up very easily. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. That's the one we needed. Eventually it works out.
Good morning, and our focus today is on Donald Trump's tariff pause. That is to say, the big tariffs, the 50% ones that were set to kick in overnight. Well, they have not. That has not happened. There is delay until at least Saturday. But there's a lot of business across the country that has already been scaling back in preparation.
It's an immediate cease and desist on all U.S. production, because at a 50% tariff, there's just no way we could manage that at all. So then the effort becomes to try and get more Canadian business, try and keep people busy doing value-add products. We haven't had a layoff in 27 years, so we would do everything we could within our power before we'd ever come to that.
That's the owner of an Ontario company that makes copper and aluminum cables. They employ 320 people and export about half of their production to the U.S. They've had to reduce capital spending and pause hiring with the looming tariff threat. Let's bring in William Pellerin, who's an international trade lawyer at McMillan LLP. William, good morning to you, first of all.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, so look, we have this tariff pause delay, but all the existing tariffs, they're still in place. What do you say to your clients about a scenario where the president is saying there's a deal and the prime minister is saying there's still work to be done?
Yeah, so the clients that we're already talking to, the short answer is this is not really a reprieve, right? Because ultimately the threat still hangs. The sword is, Damocles is still hanging over the heads of Canadian businesses, Canadian exporters. And picture it yourself, right? If you're a U.S. business buying from Canada, you've put a halt to that business already because of the potential increase of 250%. So buying a few extra days does not actually allow Canadian businesses to ship, right? No one's going to buy that product because of that threat of 50% still hanging. So the idea here is we need a deal on that product. And for those that are already hit with those sectoral tariffs on steel, on aluminum, on wood products, also need that reprieve.
That is the point, that Canadian business has been craving predictability, has been seeking some kind of deal. But if that deal still involves some level of tariffs, as the Americans have insisted it will, is that palatable? Is that survivable to certain Canadian businesses?
I think it is. 50%, first of all, is not survivable at all. Like, sales are going to zero for many of our clients that ship to the United States. That's just way too high to compete in the US market. In some instances, on a short-term basis, 25% can work with some government assistance, although it has led to a lot of layoffs within many of our clients. I think there's probably some environment where a 5 to 10% tariff is survivable. For some, that's too high. For others, they can probably absorb it, work with their longstanding customers, scale back a little bit and keep that business going. And then with government assistance packages, that business can continue operating in the normal course. So there's probably, depending on the business, some leeway for survivability with a low-level tariff.
All right. So this information I thought was particularly important to know, right? Because as I keep on mentioning, right, Trump's tariffs are so exorbitantly high that there are certain levels of reduction that could only count as being symbolic because they will make no material difference. So when you have an idea of, what a 25% tariff does, what a 15% tariff does, what a 5% tariff does, and then you understand that, certain industries, even with a tariff rate that would be 5%, that would be considered low and certainly lower than the world average. That might still, for certain industries, especially if you like, for example, you're the only one in that region, like let's say you're the hockey stick maker, right? There are not millions of countries. Well, I mean, there are not millions of countries beginning, but there are a limited number of countries in which there's going to be a large market for your product. The United States is one of the biggest ones, right? Chances are you're probably not going to sell any additional sticks at 50% unless there are people that just really, 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 really are loyal to your brand. And you would have to go out and find other nations to sell hockey sticks to. So maybe you look to Sweden or Finland or Norway, France, other nations, Czech Republic, Czechia, that play hockey. Probably not Russia at this particular moment. And try to see if you can sell your sticks to them, but they already have. Their market's already being served. So you're trying to find your way, right? So, if you're going to other than, smaller nations like Australia or New Zealand, China, that also have hockey programs, but, maybe not tons of players, it's hard to make that business up. So in that case, and particularly if you're the major employer in the region, okay, you're probably going to be receiving some government assistance. Even with a 5 or 10% tariff, there might be no way to actually absorb that. So getting a sense of, you get the big number, but what that means in real life down at the ground level, I thought was particularly important. And I like that he was able to bring that perspective. Let's continue on here with Mr. Pellerin.
75% of this country's products that are exported go to the United States. It is the client, the biggest client by a long shot. And yet, over the past year, some of those business-to-business relationships have shattered because it was simply no longer affordable or no longer survivable. And so the Americans have gone and found new ways of doing business. If there is now a deal, do those marriages return, or have the American businesses moved on?
I think it depends on the situation, but I would say in most cases, the relationships have stayed alive, right? These are relationships that are person to person, business to business, that have been ongoing for 20, 30 years. The businesses trust each other. And the Canada-US relationship is very strong, and economically it makes sense in a situation where the tariffs are low or non-existent. So I think that the Canada-US relationship is resilient and can bounce back to a significant degree. But there's no question that harm has been done. And anytime the U.S. business or consumer finds a new outlet or a new source of supply, then that will hurt Canada. So the longer we wait, the worse off we are.
Now, I just want to point out on that one, Kits and Cubs, that that's true on our side as well. Right? That's not just a one-way street. Lots of the producers in aluminium in Quebec that have found other purchasers for their product. Right? When the United States is going to be ready to be buying that product again, it's already spoken for. Right? They'll have to be able to have the capacity to produce more to fill out that need at that point. So that's a two-way street, right? It's something for us to be concerned about, and we should take that concern seriously. But it is also something for them to be concerned about as well. All right. So let's continue with the interview here. I'm not sure why it disappeared from the screen. I was the one that was trying to disappear from the screen. Technology. Here we go.
These negotiations are very complex and deal with a whole host of different industries and different issues. But I want to ask you a question about the negotiating tactic employed by Canada, because when you look at the American proclamation that came out from the president last night, it cites in particular booze, American booze that was pulled off Canadian shelves, and tariffs on American-made automobiles. Those were counter tariffs imposed by Canada. The fact that Canada retaliated, many have criticized that approach. The Americans certainly have. But it seems to be the two of the three irritants most brought up now. Does that suggest that retaliation has worked to some degree?
It's a mixed bag, certainly, right? It gives us some leverage, but you're absolutely right. What we've heard time and time again from the United States administration is that line where there's only two countries that retaliated. One was China, one was Canada, and Canada's in bad company, right? So clearly this idea of Canada putting elbows up, which we heard 1,000 times, felt good. It really helped Canadians rally around Canadian products and Canadian businesses. But ultimately, it's clear that that has angered the United States. And in many ways, that's what's responsible for this new round of threatened tariffs, which is our own retaliation on their illegal tariffs. So whether or not it was a good idea to retaliate, certainly there's pros and cons, and certain businesses needed that retaliation. Other businesses were hurt by that retaliation. So it really depends on what sector of the economy you are in.
No question about that. William Pellerin, as always, thank you very much for helping us make sense of this all.
All right. For me, if we're asking about the retaliation, it was absolutely necessary. One, because you teach people how to treat you. So, first we said, if you want to do this, even though you might ultimately be able to get this done, we are going to make this very difficult and painful for you. And if you achieve it, it will be a Pyrrhic victory, because the damage to your reputation and your economy will be such that you will regret having done it. But you can. Right? We needed something to rally around. We needed that. This needed to be a national project that we were all together on. So it was necessary. Yes. Did it have some consequences? Of course. We knew it would have consequences, right? We had Scott Bessent at the time telling us back then, now we are going to do this. Don't retaliate. Don't retaliate. I remember that line very, very, they were telling us back then to just lie back and take it. Again, words that are rather fitting with this administration. And we said, yeah, but no, buddy, we won't be doing that. That's not going to work out for us. But there does come a time right? And we saw that earlier on with Mark Carney, where certain measures that we used to retaliate were no longer serving us. Right? They have the impact at first, but the longer that they get ingrained in the system, right? Because tariffs are things that we pay if we charge them, um, right? At one point, some of them no longer become in our interest, some do, right? The booze ones are particularly effective. And I would be surprised if there wasn't any language in the agreement that has something like you end your end of the deal, the booze comes back off the shelves type of thing, right? Or maybe that language can't be put in because again, that's a decision from the premiers. But that's always something that we have in our back pocket, just like the United States randomly just decides, oh, I'm going to slap another tariff because you did something today that hurt my feelings. Nothing stops the provinces from being just as mercurial with regard to alcohol and also procurement. Because provinces made some changements to procurement rules to exclude United States from bidding on certain contracts. It seems that also there might be a request for that to be changed. Those are things that premiers can pull off the shelf at any time, and they don't need to ask the prime minister's permission to do that. So if we are conceding those things, nobody needs to view those concessions as being permanent. Just saying. Um, So I think the concessions, not the concessions, the retaliation was absolutely necessary. I'm not sure if it was, financially or that type of stuff necessary. Although there is some money that has been collected in those tariffs, and some of them have gone back to industries. The prime minister has made a lot of those announcements. There still haven't been announcements specifically for workers, and there has still been not even an inkling of talk about making some substantive reform to the EI system, because only about 40% of people who pay into it actually qualify to get anything back. And precarity of work and pandemics and weird trade wars and other actual real wars and disruptions to supply chains and stuff happening. Maybe we need to modernize that thing a little bit. Just saying. The NDP would certainly be for that. I think that there's definitely some merit to it. It should definitely be looked at. But there hasn't been much of that. I'd been calling for more of it along the way, but also suggesting that a reason there might not have been as much of it as needed, not as needed, but as people would have liked, is because it's in the fund there being kept dry for when something really major would happen. Something like this might be something really major, for which you would have want to have saved those funds aside if you were playing the long game. So again, right, we're seeing now, right, how not spending all of the tariff fund when we had it on providing maximum relief then might actually be serving us now to help weather this part of the fight. It's always good to have some funds in reserve, if you would put it that way, to be able to prosecute a war that is coming. And remember, trade war is war. Don't be fooled, right? The stated objective of the United States is to bring us to our knees through economic coercion. This is a war. This is a war. So yeah, I think the counter tariffs and the retaliation is necessary. And even though, once again, they said don't retaliate, and if they did something, I think some retaliation would have indeed been necessary. Right? Because this is them coming at us a second time and we said stay down. And that's the time where we need to go. It's like, I'm sorry, did we stutter? We said no. That's not going to work for us. And if you thought we were nasty and inconvenient before, just wait. That was us being reasonable. That was us being poised and measured. You ain't seen nasty yet. It's like, yeah, and the next 2 or 3 moves that we do to escalate, that still won't be nasty. It's like, if you want to find out what Canadian nasty is, do keep on come look for us. I wish you would. Right? So no, this is the retaliation was needed. Again, may not have been necessarily in the economic best interests. You can make a case for that, but there are intangibles when you are a society that is at war. And not at war with just anyone, someone that you expected to be your trusted neighbor and best friend pretty much forever. And turned out and said, you know what, Canada, we decided that we're just not that into you. Okay, well, fuck you too. Right? I think they expected, no, please don't leave us. Okay, fine. Yeah, we were getting a little tired of you anyway ourselves. Actually, yeah, we never said it, but out loud. But we were wondering how long we wanted to stay in this marriage ourselves. So yeah, we're we're shocked that you pulled the trigger first. Actually, we thought we would have been first to leave this arrangement, but it'll be an adjustment. But I guess we'll muddle through somehow. Well, Canada, you don't seem to be that broken up about it. Well, just, c'est la vie, right? And now that they're upset that we're not broken up enough. They don't want us, but we're not broken up enough about them not wanting us, so now they're insulted. Sounds like a you problem. Right? So, very important contextual information here in this interview with Monsieur Pellerin. The second one I have for you. Maybe this is actually, you know what? I may have lied. I may have 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Sorry, I did forget one. I thought I had 3, but I actually have 4. The second one is Kyle Seaback. No, not Kyle Seaback. That's the conservative MP. Silly me. Kyle Bakx, not Seabax, just Kyle Bakx of CBC News, doing a little bit of reporting because, as we mentioned, one of the things being talked about that sort of came up was Keystone XL. We're talking about it again, right? Now, if you are online and you are looking at the blue check mark bullshitters, you are hearing a tale of Donald Trump single-handedly reviving Keystone and how Donald Trump has done Canada such a wonderful favor by doing that. Little note, if again you have been watching the show and you paid attention, it was actually Mark Carney that put Keystone back on the table many months ago when he was discussing this with Donald Trump previously. I think might have even been the case before Doug Ford screwed everything up with his Ronald Reagan ad. Yeah, interesting. Just saw on the bottom of the screen, Frank Beard, drummer of rock trio ZZ Top, dead at 77. There was actually a guy in ZZ Top whose last name was Beard. life's funny sometimes. Not funny that he's dead, of course. Um, wow. Well, there you go. So yeah, Keystone. Uh, Prime Minister is the one that who put that one back on the table at some point. Keystone can be a big deal. A lot of people are seeing it as a sign, good sign, for the negotiations and for our relationship because somehow, in their interpretation of it, um, it shows that the relationship can be broader than just Kuzma. I'm not sure how that's the case, but that's some of the spin people are putting on it. So let's listen to David Common and Kyle Sachs here talk a little bit about this part.
Line long ago killed by sleepy Joe Biden may be awoken from the grave, showing he's relishing in resuscitating what those two Democratic presidents tried to kill. This project, the current or the latest reiteration of it, it would increase Canada's oil exports to the United States by about 12%. The route is slightly different. Instead of moving oil from Alberta down to Nebraska, this new route would travel down to Wyoming. There would likely be other projects that would get built in the future that would move that oil to different parts of the U.S. Midwest or down to the U.S. Gulf Coast. For Canada, this project is largely already built in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The pipe is in the ground, about 150 kilometers of pipe already in the ground. The permits are in place, but this seems to still be a bargaining chip with the United States.
Yeah, and a curious one because we know the U.S. president has a fond spot, if you will, for oil and energy broadly. And it is curious because Canada had chosen, Kyle, as you well know, as you've reported, not to use energy in retaliation, not to try to tariff it, not to try to use it against the Americans. Trump, along the last year, has said, well, we don't need Canadian oil, which makes this pipeline all the more interesting. Why do they need Canadian oil?
Well, I think for Donald Trump, he's under a lot of pressure to lower gasoline prices in the United States. Fuel prices have spiked this year, as we've seen, of course, across Canada because of the U.S. war with Iran. This new pipeline project, it's not going to help in the short term, but it could send a message to voters, that he is, wanting to lower gasoline prices. A lot of Canadian oil is heavy oil, and a lot of refineries in the United States, especially in the U.S. Midwest, they are configured to use heavy oil, and that's why they are heavily dependent on Canadian oil exports. This Keystone XL project, this revived version of it, the two companies are expecting to make a final investment decision next year, and there could still be some legal challenges. Experts have also told me that state regulatory permits are still needed. Southbow, that's the Calgary company, it is working with a partner called Bridger Pipelines in the United States. Again, this is a smaller pipe than the original Keystone XL, and it's not as long of a route, but these two companies, they are continuing to develop this project.
All right. Now, if you're looking at this map, you will see here, kits and cubs, that the U.S. portion here is completely right within the United States. So there's not necessarily any economic activity for Canada coming from the build of that pipeline, unless we're sending any type of expertise or something of the sort. We have no say in it, right? This can be an entirely American decision. This is entirely within their borders. But as Mr. Bakx reported here, right, most of the infrastructure on our side is already built, right, at this moment, and ever since it was built. And remember, it was Jason Kenney, I think, who had committed at one point more than $1 billion or something like that to sweeten the pot, and they accepted that money, and I think like 2 days later decided that they're still not going ahead or something, and was never able to recuperate that. So if you're following Jason Kenney social media feeds, he is extremely happy that this is back on the table. One, most likely because, well, if one is being serious here, it would erase a very bad legacy moment from him, because that was a decision that he got mocked relentlessly for when it happened. So Jason Kenney yesterday. Great to see that the federal government has apparently played the Keystone XL card in trade negotiations with the U.S. I've said since his re-election that completing a new southbound oil pipeline is the best way to give President Trump a win, which is also a huge win for Canada at relatively no cost to us as well. And like I said, unblocking a stranded asset. It's as Mr. Bakx said in that report, it would increase our oil output to the United States by 12%. This at a time where their oil reserves are particularly low. And, even though the United States is getting some oil from Venezuela, according to Reuters by Mariana Paraga on August 18th, says U.S. refiners built for Venezuela crude received more than 500,000 barrels a day. PDVSA, I'm not sure what that acronym stands for. Executive says Venezuela's crude output will reach 1.245 million barrels per day by the end of August, and says that Venezuela is currently producing around 1.25 million barrels a day. So United States is one of the reasons why it would have been difficult or could have been tricky to retaliate with oil specifically is because the United States is now basically, for all intents and purposes, stealing oil from Venezuela, which is a product similar to the one that we provide. Again, had Trump not done the folly in Iran and oil reserves were higher, we would be in a more difficult situation. But that given that oil reserves are considerably low enough for people to be writing newspaper articles about it and being concerned, and they will need to replenish that. Our oil will be needed at the moment, particularly now at this time. So that's one thing. On the other side of the ledger, people who are from the environmental side saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this Keystone thing again. More oil." There's probably a good chance this thing doesn't happen again, right? The last two Democratic presidents canceled it. If we ever get another U.S. president, given approval ratings and everything, hopefully, and that states still run elections and not the federal government, hopefully it would be a Democratic president that, again, would cancel it again. The new route is probably going to go to court as well. There'll probably be lots of people in Wyoming, where it's now going to go through, that are not too happy about that. In the new neighborhoods through it's going to go through, which is going to go in the other states it goes through, also probably not. So there might be more legal action. So this could be something that's also several years off. Said here, it actually gets. Jason Kenney goes on, says it actually gets Trump to buy into, quote, Canada as a major guarantor of U.S. energy security. Currently, 2/3 of U.S. oil imports come from Canada. I don't think that anybody needed to buy into that. He had already bought into that. That's why he didn't include it in the 50% tariffs. It actually gets him to increase Canada's trade surplus with the U.S., which is now made up entirely of our oil exports. This removes from the table his grievance regarding our trade surplus. That is true. Now, Trump is just going to say it anyway. But if Trump wants more oil from us, and let's put it this way: if Trump is mad that we have a trade surplus with the United States, and all of the trade surplus comes from the sale of oil. If you remove the sale of oil, the United States has a trade surplus with us, and the United States wants yet more of our oil, which would increase the trade surplus. Then maybe you need to stop complaining about the trade surplus because you're getting oil. And at a pretty good rate, right? So there might be some discussions there. We don't want to hear you open your mouth ever again about that trade surplus. It gets Trump to gets Trump to buy in to gets Trump to buy into the fact that we're demonstrating that the U.S. really does need a strategic partnership with Canada. Again, uh, they already knew that. That's why they had singled out those 5 domains of negotiation and wanted to negotiate those and only those with us and nothing else at first, because they know. We don't need to demonstrate that. We know they know by their behavior. If completed, it would generate about $30 billion in additional export value every year for the Canadian economy and tens of billions in royalty and tax revenues over time. Okay, yeah, that's nice. It would help to trigger major new capital investment in greenfield oil sand projects, which would be a huge boost to the Canadian economy, including orders for steels and fabricated equipment from central Canada. Much of the Canadian leg of KXL was already built when my government invested in the original project. The regulatory, construction, legal, and Indigenous challenges would all be radically easier than the de novo West Coast pipeline, although we should pursue both. Finally, it would further commit the Liberal government to policies conducive to a large increase in Canadian oil production. It's a win-win-win. And then, of course, somebody responded, but Stephen Gilbo would be sad. Okay, that makes it a win-win-win-win, said Jason Kenney, because, of course, why pass on an opportunity to be a dick? Right? Why pass? So yeah, Jason Kenney, obviously rather happy with things Keystone here. Like I said, probably in a very self-serving way, because if it goes through, it does remove a terrible legacy element that is his from the time he was premier. All right, let's see here. If there's anything more, I believe there's more to this interview with Mr. Bakx with regard to the Keystone stuff. So let's go back to that. There we go.
It is quite striking to see the connection potentially between the war in Iran, oil prices, and American trade talks with Canada. That is quite something. Thank you for drawing that line. Appreciate it. Kyle Bakx.
Thank you.
All right, look.
Okay, I was wrong. There was nothing more to it. Yeah, it happens. I had cut it off before the end, but I had cut it off at everything that came after that was niceties. On that front, looking at crude oil prices at the moment, again, we're having some ups and downs, right? Reprieves and stuff like that. So we got down to about $75 a barrel on August 5th, and we're back up to nearly 87 on crude oil. So we're swinging here on oil prices. With Brent, similar, got down to about $77 a barrel on also on the 5th, and now we're looking at $94 a barrel. If we're looking at, again, the bond yields, they're up today for the United States, up at 5.5 basis points on the 30 to 5.249, and on the 10-year, also up 5 basis points. That's a lot for the 10-year, to 4.706 today. And since we've been talking about the world rushing to buy more gold, particularly the central banks, gold is a little bit down today, but not very significantly, not even 0.4%. So we'll see that. And since the markets have just opened, we'll take a look. The Dow Jones doesn't have a chart yet available, I believe. Let's see. Dow Jones up a little bit. Again, not much, just 0.2% for the day. And S&P, which is the TSX, that is about opens flat pretty much today. We'll see what else happens. So yeah, the markets around TSX opened flat and is now down 74 points. So a down opening here. Markets on the Canadian side moved a little bit on the news yesterday. On the US side, there was sort of like that sort of opening move, but everything shrugged. There was almost no reporting on this in the United States yesterday as well. It was a non-event, whereas over here, it was all that we were talking about. So again, just shows a slight difference in priorities for each country, and again, we don't register there. The next bit of interview I had for you is with Laura Dawson, the executive director of the Future Borders Coalition, to bring a bit of some thoughts here about what is going on here, and how would you put it? Talking about how various different elements are coming into play specifically here. So let's bring this to you. There's going to probably be the end of an interview with another CBC reporter before this one starts that we just catch here, because my queuing skills are not as precise as they should be today, but we'll get into the main subject pretty soon.
The American position on all of this. Thank you very much. All right, there's politics riddled through all of this. Let's bring Laura Dawson, Executive Director of the Future Borders Coalition, in. Laura, good morning to you.
Good morning, David.
You know, we find ourselves in a position this morning where we're talking not just about a tariff delay, but about the potential for a deal between Canada and the U.S., the president using that, the prime minister not. If we are, in fact, at a deal, what does that do for the relationship?
I think we're at a period where we can be optimistic, but it's along a very rocky road. So what I see now for the first time in many, many months is really sustained engagement on both sides, both governments taking this seriously and trying to inject stability and predictability back into the relationship. Now, we've only got a 3-day deal, and hopefully it rolls over into something more permanent, and that rolls over into something that looks like a renewed Kuzma, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a really sharp sign of goodwill. So it's good for the relationship. At the same time, Canada in particular is going to have to go back to a lot of stakeholders, to the provinces, and say, hey, look what we did. And that's an opportunity for those provinces and some stakeholders to say, hey, good for you. But in order for us to agree to what you've just committed to, you need to give us a lot of stuff. So this is like 5-6 level chess game going on right now. So I'm not breaking out the champagne just yet, but I'm really pleased by the stability and commitment we're seeing this week.
So here, again, big important point that she is bringing up here, that there's the negotiation with the United States, and then opens up a negotiation with the Canadian provinces, because again, yes, a lot of them will see this as an opportunity to try to extract some additional concessions from Ottawa in order to get them to accept whatever concessions that we are making here. So again, and the Prime Minister, we have seen, has shown himself amenable already to do that a couple of times, right? He did that with British Columbia when he wanted to get that pipeline approved, and he seems to have done it with Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec to get the Churchill Falls, Gull Island hydroelectricity project off the ground as well. So this is not a prime minister that is adverse to using federal cash to essentially pretty much bribe premiers to row in the same direction as the rest of the team. Incentivize, encourage, bribe, whatever the term is. But, of course, people might look down at the federal government. I can't believe that they're doing that, but yeah, don't worry. The premiers that are like little chickies in the nest going, they're not adverse to taking bribes slash incentives slash encouragement. In fact, they sometimes show up, right? Remember, like if you're a parent and your kid, once they start getting an allowance or whatnot, and then you ask them to do something, it's like, yeah, well, how much you going to pay me to do that? It's like, not a damn thing. You do that because you're a member of this household, not because you get paid. Now here's a mop. Go clean that up. I give you an allowance so that you can learn how to manage money, not to do chores. You do chores because you're a member of this house. You like that bed you sleep in? Yeah? Well, this is how you pay for it. You missed a spot. Oh man. So yeah, right. The provinces show up. Yeah, well, how much you gonna give me to do that? So let's not get let's not get too moralistic here. Sometimes you do what you got to do to move the project forward. So yeah, but important to know that this is again when we're talking, especially the conservatives want to frame this like everything depends on one man, Mark Carney. No, right? You could have a few contrarian premiers that decide that this is not going to happen. Right? The one of the whole reasons the Meech Lake Accord didn't happen was one man, right? Elijah Harper. It's like, no, not happening, not on my watch. We're not doing this, right? So there is more work than just negotiating with Trump to be done here. All right, let's go back a little bit more to Miss Dawson here, who has some absolutely great insights.
Like the analogy, Laura, I want to get to a specific example here, and I'm going to use BC, lumber, and booze on shelves. Let me make the connection. It seems quite clear that the provinces, if there is a deal, are going to be asked, if you've taken booze, American booze off the shelves, put it back on, that would be a condition of the deal. That seems fairly clear at this point. But if you're British Columbia and you don't see the kind of movement you want on your softwood lumber industry, which is critically important, do you accede to the alcohol request? And what does that politically do for Mark Carney trying to manage all of these different regional priorities?
Exactly. Now, lumber products, they have to be taken very, very seriously. That's the sector that is always kicked around in these negotiations, are very hard to manage either inside the CUSMA, outside the CUSMA, and that sector does need to see something. Whether it's the terms of what was reached this week or something else in the future, they need some concrete affirmations. At the same time, whether those affirmations are going to be enough for BC to lift the booze ban, good question. Also, can the feds come back to BC and say, we understand how important the forest products sector is, but also what about mining, manufacturing services, digital trade, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, making sure they're aware that they're going to be getting a shot in the arm in various areas. Things that Ottawa can do, investment in infrastructure, permitting, et cetera. There's going to be a lot of horse trading. Under the terms of trade agreements, the provinces are bound to give their best efforts to implement what the feds negotiated. But these are kind of side agreements. This is not a treaty. So the provinces can come back and say, yeah, no, we're not happy with this deal. Try again. Give us more.
I want to talk oil here, and I'm going to bring up...
Okay. That is particularly important, right? What we are negotiating at this point isn't a treaty, right? Side deal, side contract, little things like that. So, given that it doesn't have the status of an entire treaty, again, provinces can make this a little more complicated. In fact, I would not be surprised if there is a province of two that decides, Donald Trump, you want to do the art of the deal? Let's dance. Sorry, still not good enough. I wouldn't be surprised if a province or two tries it. Again, not sure whether or not Mark Carney will go ahead with it. I think we could possibly be able to get a little more if we did do that. But there is also a value to just like stop talking about this damn thing. And just move on to something else for now. So not sure how this portion of it will play down, but yes, definitely that that could happen here because it's important. The legal status of what this is does matter. All right, let's go back again. I rewinded it a little bit so that we can get the full question.
This deal, try again. Give us more.
I want to talk oil here, and I'm going to bring up an image that comes from the U.S. president's social media profile. You can't see it, Laura. Let me try to describe it. It's AI generated, number one. It features Trump. It features the Keystone Pipeline erupting out of the ground in a blaze of flaming glory with a tombstone next to it, which I believe says buried by Biden. There's, of course, a couple of American flags in it. It speaks to what may be part of a deal, if there is a deal, and that is that the Keystone XL pipeline, long talked about, could in fact be built, bridging Alberta oil into U.S. Midwest refineries. What does it say about the value placed on energy and oil in particular by the Trump administration?
Number one, it emphasizes that oil and energy is a top line issue for the Trump and the Trump administration. So Canada has been very savvy in keeping those conversations on the table, making sure that that is a bargaining chip. But number two, it's not there's many ways that it's not a viable bargaining chip, in that these are private sector companies, private buyers, private sellers. So you can't make guarantees that a pipeline will be built if you don't have a business case to build it. You can't make guarantees of new oil supply if the buyers and sellers have said, yeah, we really don't need that right now. So what both countries can do is they can clear the way, streamline permitting and approvals and regulatory red tape. And a lot of that is what held up the last Keystone XL. So while the packaging may strain credulity, the idea is pretty good, and it was a good play for Canada to keep energy in the conversation.
Last question to you, Laura. If there is a deal, as Trump claims, Ottawa not yet using that language, I want to be very clear, I know I say it over and over again, but if there is a deal, given everything that's happened, given all the trade agreements that have been ignored to this point, the fact that tariffs were going to be imposed on CUSMA-compliant goods until this tariff delay, why should we trust a deal with the Trump administration?
Well, that's a great question. And I think businesses are looking for any small incremental step towards stability away from the instability that we've got, especially if it's a business that's highly dependent on Canada-US trade. We, in the old days, used to have trade agreements that were set it and forget it, and you wouldn't talk about them again for 10 years. We're in a very volatile, very dynamic situation. So I think if there's a deal, it gives us breathing room. And during that breathing room, if I'm in Ottawa advising the Prime Minister, I'm saying, let's get really busy on building up our global competitiveness, on investing in all the infrastructure and projects you said that we were going to do, on doing all the things we need to build Canadian competitiveness so that we have the resilience to manage both the instability with the United States and to be competitive with the rest of the world. It's breathing room. It's not a final deal that's said and done.
All right. Laura Dawson, thank you very much. This will, of course, be critically important for Canadian business.
All right. So there you go, kids and cubs. Ms. Dawson making it very clear here that these are good tactics that we are employing. We are playing our cards well. We don't have all of them, but we do have cards. We have a decent amount of them. And we are playing them well. Again, as I mentioned, for the people who are more environmentalists and are not particularly happy that we're talking Keystone XL, again, lots of stuff can happen. Again, the fact that they've agreed to it has almost little bearing onto whether or not it will happen, as we have seen before. But also talking about the strategic benefit of whatever we get to sign here, providing us some breathing room that allows us to continue doing work on the second part of Mark Carney's promise to Canada. Also, another thing that the convenient conservatives can forget to mention, which is not only to get a deal that is a good deal, that's in our interests with the United States, but to also start pivoting our economy away from it, because again, with a $40 trillion debt and adding $2 trillion to it a year, high inflation, low employment growth, and low economic growth, in other words, entering a period potentially of stagflation, and of course, potential even civil unrest. Some people are seeing things going that way in the United States over the next few years, that perhaps it would be a very smart idea for Canada to reduce its exposure to a potential single point of failure. That's just good risk management, and our Prime Minister is a noted risk manager. So any breathing room we can get along that process is helpful. A lot of the reasons why we were ragging the puck and why we weren't all that broken up when the United States decided that it thought it was a smart move in their interest to leave the table, until they realized that we were quite fine with that. And then we got this. No, you guys need to get back to the table. You guys got 30 days. What? You guys are not okay being away from the table anymore? Okay, well, fine. By the way, we never left. We're still here. But yeah, definitely an issue. Another great interview that was given on the morning came from a one-time guest on our show, Mr. Flavio Volpe, with the Canadian Auto Parts Manufacturers Association, because we've talked about a lot of elements here. We've talked a little bit about lumber, a little bit about oil, right? So some key elements in the trade here, and one of the things that is an element, also, as we know, is auto parts. Donald Trump has indicated that he wanted to basically not want to purchase any cars that were manufactured in Canada. I guess, and or if they are manufactured in Canada, they're manufactured with entirely American parts, right? And the only reason there would need to be that is that there was a temporary surge in demand for cars, and there was we would essentially be pretty much overflow capacity, right? And if there is overflow, then there's reason to build another plant in the United States, right? So there's nothing in this that's in our best interest over the long term, right? Just being only a parts supplier when needed, and only when needed. That's probably not in our best interest. So here we have Flavio Volpe, distinguished himself in more than one way, because he was part of the advisory group the first time as well, that we had to renegotiate this, because Trump decided that he didn't want the word of the United States to stand as it was signed. So here we go. This is Flavio Volpe, along with Peter Armstrong, CBC Business anchor, and David Cochran.
to be done. No question, this will have impact on Canada's auto industry. CBC News reporting that the U.S. was offering an effective tariff rate of 7.5%. But it's a complicated formula. It takes a while to get there. A source with knowledge of the talks saying that number was not low enough for the Canadian side. That appeared to be one of the many issues in dispute yesterday during the negotiations. So let's bring in, well, a couple of people here. I'm going to say, first of all, Flavio Volpe, hello, president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association. Also here with me, our senior business correspondent, Peter Armstrong. And together, we have a lot of questions because not only are you looking, Flavio, at Automotive, you are part of the Canada-U.S. Economic Relations Council. You help advise the Prime Minister and the Canadian government. What have you heard, if anything, out of last night's negotiations getting to a point where Trump is saying there's a deal?
Well, the Canadians should understand that if they're confused that we hadn't heard anything, it's the negotiating team went into a vault with their counterparties, and we haven't been briefed yet either. On the way in, there were a lot of questions about, to the point you were talking about, does 15% work? Currently under the 232s, it's 25% minus your U.S. content, so the effective rate is somewhere around 12.5. Could an effective rate of 7.5 work? Those types of questions. Well, in the auto sector in 2024, the last full year before this craziness, the average profit margin was 6%.
Yeah.
So right away, the answer is no.
Yeah.
You're losing money on every car.
We know the big three, the automakers in particular, had been lobbying the White House a bit more quietly, saying that we need stability. We also know there was a proclamation that came out from the U.S. Trade Representative. I want to take a look at that very quickly. What Jamieson Greer was saying last night. It should appear on our screen here in just a moment. If not, I am going to take a peek at it here, where the White House says, there it is. Canada has expressed a commitment to remove discriminations of unreasonable and unequal impositions at issue in, we're not going to read all of that, blah, 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 blah. This is interesting to me because Canada had counter-tariffed American-made vehicles. Was that leverage?
That was good leverage. That's what kept those 5 companies whole here in Canada. They said, if you make 400,000 cars here this year and you import 400,000 cars, we'll credit you against the tariff that we're charging. And as long as you continue making cars, you'll get that credit. So we get a little bit of back and forth. Now, that wasn't industry-wide. That wasn't for companies like Hyundai that sell cars here but don't make them here. But it was important for Ford and General Motors and Toyota, Honda, and Stellantis. And so I want to see the details of the deal. I think the Canadian negotiating team, the Prime Minister, understand that if you let go of that, and we don't get the consequent reduction or removal of the original tariff, we're at a disadvantage.
No question. This is very complicated.
Okay, so some interesting facts here that Mr. Volpe brings up. Negotiating 6% down, negotiating it down to an effective rate of 7%, depending on meeting a whole bunch of various requirements, but the profit margin is 6%, so you still lose. Right? Going to illustrate my point, there's a certain point at which you set a tariff, which it doesn't matter if you've removed 5 or 10%, it doesn't make a material difference to the person at the other end. So it seems that from this discussion that it's as close to as low as the United States can go while still winning. We're beating you by 1%. Ha ha. Again, important details on the ground to know about what's going on. Also here, Mr. Volpe making it clear that the negotiating team and Team Canada, when it decides to put the counter tariffs on the American vehicles in the manner that they did, particularly with the exporting and importing, importing and producing here combination, that is what saved the companies and making it clear that it applied specifically to the U.S. companies, given the tariff, and not necessarily to the, for example, Japanese or Korean automakers, or any from any other nation, that is. So some very important contextual information on how the federal government did manage to shore up the industry and what the industry needs. And Mr. Volpe making it clear as well that letting go of the retaliation that we did on with regard to the importing is something that we can't let go of unless we get a tariff rate that allows Canadian companies to still have a profit margin of some kind. All right. We keep going here with Mr. Volpe.
And I'm lucky to have Peter Armstrong, who's been living this complexity.
Well, I mean, Flavio, you and I have been talking about Trump negotiations going back all the way to his first term. And I wonder, when you think about how that final deal to get Kuzma across the finish line came into place, what the negotiations leading up to last night looked like, there was an emerging case, I think, to be made that the best case scenario is some vague deal that punts things down the road, that we don't get pinned down on a specific tariff rate, or we don't get pinned down on a specific quota, and we can try to ride out the rest of Trump. It felt like the Americans tried to offset that. Is that your read into what Donald Trump was able to sort of accomplish last night? Was say, no, we're making a deal on my terms, in my term, and it's going to last going forward?
Well, I don't know.
Right.
Certainly, if you were a casual observer, you'd say you probably hit the mark. But we've heard that they won the war in Iran 7 times now. Fair. So I'm not sure what he said last night is what the actual deal is. What's important for the auto sector is the rules of origin in the Kuzma dictate exactly, look, this is a car, these are the 60 components that are in a car, and then we're going to judge where they come from. If we made some interim deal that said, okay, look, it's a 15% rate, and you get credit for U.S. content and you get credit for Canadian content, but we're really going to grind it out in the USMCA. This says to automakers, look, the real deal is there. Get up and speak out. Like, you know, when you say that the automakers have been quiet as they've talked to the president, I mean, you're being generous. They haven't said anything. If I was running an auto company, I'd go to...
They've been doing some lobbying of the White House itself. Let's be... That we know, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. But, you know, what we know that has worked with him is to challenge the math. And you challenge the math on auto parts, which we did, the industry did, and we said if you put the tariff on auto parts and they cross the border 6 or 7 times, you're going to pile up numbers. It's going to shut the industry in a week, and they backed off. In the car making segment, the 3 American companies have written off over $50 billion last year, and they say, well, it's not all tariff related; it's also EV related. Right. Well, by the way, which president pulled back on all the EV commitments? So they don't challenge him publicly. But if you get into a negotiation like we did 10 years ago, and it's 3-party negotiation, chapter and verse, that platforms them. They bring their math to the table.
On that point, there's an interesting thing that I think...
So here, 2 important things to note. One from a previous response that I had forgotten to highlight. Even Flavio Volpe, who's on the Canada-U.S. Economic Relations Advisory Committee, is stating that everybody from the government went into a vault when it comes to giving out information. Even they don't have it. Right? So again, layering on to my thing, not only do I believe that James Moore, Lisa Raitt, and Aaron O'Toole would not be so unprofessional as to violate secrecy as members of this panel, because they do care about their personal reputations and wanting to do the best thing for Canada. And that would not be leaking information to a leader of the opposition who has proved himself not particularly trustworthy and whose loyalty a lot of people doubt. Right? But according to Flavio Volpe, there was nothing to share because the government went into a vault. So, number 1. Number 2, at the negotiating table, at the end of the day, if you want to win with Donald Trump, bring the math. Well, we happen to have a prime minister that's very, 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 very good at math, particularly business math. So, if there's something, if bringing the math often solves the problem, We might be doing well because a lot of the American premises were based on faulty math. All right, back to the exchange.
They bring their math to the table.
On that point, there's an interesting thing that I think got skipped over in a lot of the reporting yesterday, if only because there's a lot going on. We saw Mexico's foreign minister leave the USTR yesterday. So at some point yesterday, the Jameson Greer, the United States Trade Representative, was meeting with both the Canadians and the Mexicans.
Separately. We think separately.
In the same building, though, right?
Yeah.
So is there something to be said that everybody keeps talking about Mexico's so much further ahead than Canada? I certainly wouldn't make that case. They just indicted the governor of Sinaloa. So, it'd be like indicting Scott Moe. It's not a great sign that the relations between the U.S. and Mexico are going great. But is there a sense that perhaps there is a growing three-party set of negotiations coming here?
We think so, but again, we need to see the terms of the deal. I think people are still very nervous. Workers are nervous. Canadian companies that are invested in this country, in the U.S. and Mexico, are nervous. If there's a deal that Mexico's out, well, there's 120 Canadian-owned auto parts factories down there serving American automakers that sell to Canadians. It's so intermingled. You can't judge the deal until we see the terms of it. If, in fact, the deal is, look, here's some interim principles where Canada has been read in as equal to American content in that allowance, that's a principle change. That's positive. But that effective rate, that actual tariff that gets charged, has to be below the profit margin, because the car makers that make cars in Canada are not charities, and they're not Chinese. They have to make money on the cars. And if they don't, for every 1% on a typical plant is $100 million of tariffs they either absorb or pass to their customers. Well, if you're at 3% and you build that car for 5 years, you've now got a charge that's as big as building a new plant in Ohio.
Flavio, one last thing to you. Damage has been done over the last year. I look not far from where we're broadcasting, Brampton. That is a Stellantis assembly plant that has been idled for quite some time, and there are indications it may never come back. Has the damage been done to the auto sector, in Ontario in particular, but in this country broadly?
Damage has been done to automaker investment confidence. That Stellantis Brampton one is a real curious one. We had Tony Filosa, who is the global CEO, say to Mark Carney last year when he idled it, if you get CUSMA peace and tariff peace, I've got a product for you. Well, 5 days before maybe we have peace or not, the company is telling the union we're going to sell the plant. Well, they have a product. They have several products. One of them is the Chrysler Aero. And we all know the Aero name in this country, but that's got to be built somewhere and it's unallocated. And so unless we get clarity on the deal this week...
Yeah, if you're Stellantis, why would you put something into a country? Why would you put a car to be built in a country and do all the investment if you have no idea if you can get that car out of the country without it being tariffed to hell?
Yes, and except in this case, for 60 years, we've supported Stellantis and the predecessor companies, including bailing them out from bankruptcy.
With taxpayer money.
Twice, in 1979 and in 2009. So some of that is owed, and whether it's owed on a balance sheet or in the terms and conditions, it's owed if you think you're going to keep the customers.
Okay, Flavio, we are going to get details on this apparent deal, potential deal, claim deal at some point. Please come back and give us your reaction at that point in time. Thanks very much. In the meantime...
All right. So again, two very, very informative exchange with Mr. Volpe, and we had two very important pieces of information there. Again, insisting that the tariff rate cannot be higher than the profit margin, because when you do that, for example, if the tariff rate was higher than the profit margin by 3% after a certain number of years, that's an amount of money that could build a whole new plant. We do not want to be paying to be building American plants. That will be taking our jobs away, right? That does not seem to be a winning situation for us. That's not a good deal for us. So that is definitely one thing here that we need to keep in mind when we are trying to evaluate what is and what isn't necessarily a good deal. And of course, making the point here as well that this company Stellantis, and throughout its history with the predecessor names, is a company that we have helped out twice, and we've bailed out in 1979 and 2009. So, yeah, some of that has to come home, right? Again, don't look at what you got from Canada over the last 3 or 4 years. Look at the fact that the reason you still exist in Canada to still be making something since every year since 1979 has something to do with the fact that the taxpayers of Canada decided that you were important enough that we would put our money behind ensuring you stay. There should be recognition of that. Important points being made. So we have all of this context, right? This is about what we know going in to the time that Pierre Poilievre makes an announcement that he is going to have a press event at 11 o'clock Eastern time. At that time, we don't even know if there is going to be any type of meeting about yesterday at all between Dominique Leblanc and Jameson Greer. I forgot the name of the U.S. Trade representative for a second. We weren't even sure that was going to happen. We did find out about an hour before it happened, or within the hour of it happening, that there was going to be, in fact, another meeting between Dominique Leblanc and Jameson Greer. This might have happened maybe 15 to 20, 30 minutes before Pierre was slated to speak, that this information became public. So Pierre was going to be making comments that could very easily be obsolete in a few minutes when he chose to speak. That's another reason why you want to maybe wait and keep your powder dry before deciding that you're going to come out and have something to say. But I guess Pierre thought that by going at 11 o'clock in the morning, that he would have time to speak enough to make the noon newscasts and the 5 p.m. newscasts and be the story, the person who was driving the narrative on that day. That didn't really happen. He got a few mentions. He did manage to get into the headlines, no doubt about that. But not a particularly... the news was too big for the lack of quality of intervention that he would bring to it. Particularly since everybody knew at the time that there wasn't all that much that he could be bringing that would be of substance or helpful, because just the paucity of information that is available. But still, boldly and confidently, chin up, ass out, he went in front of a podium because there is no camera or microphone that Pierre Poilievre has met that he doesn't like, and had a few things to say. So again, sorry, kids and cubs, big trigger warning, extended PP voice and visuals, but they are needed today for this episode.
Souverain qui se tient debout par lui-même. Thank you very much, and thank you to my incredible Atlantic Caucus team. Now in English, it is amazing, invigorating to be here in Prince Edward Island to take in the legendary maritime hospitality. Our Atlantic Caucus has been meeting with fishermen, small businesses, workers, and others. I've been doing the same. We talked with people across the island. We asked them what we should be doing for them, and they said, restore the promise. Very simple deal. If you work hard, you should be able to buy a nice house, live on a safe street, pay off your mortgage quickly, retire in peace, afford your groceries, and never have to worry about crime.
Okay. Slight intervention. There are plenty of people who work very hard and who are not able to buy a home. Okay. And I don't think, while Canadians typically are not people, not all neighborhoods are the same, but typical, not spending their days worried and terrified about crime, the way Pierre is indicating, particularly since crime is going down. Latest reports have been showing that. We'll have to do an episode on that or bring it up specifically as an episode topic soon. But no longer thinking about everybody thinks about crime, a reality in which you would no longer have to worry or think about crime ever. I mean, God, we have Amazon leaving packages on our porches and them disappearing. That's crime, right? It's like we are not going to stop worrying about crime. So these are empty platitudes talking about a reality that does not exist or can not exist. But this is his rhetorical safety blanket, right? So just imagine Pierre Poilievre as Linus from Charlie Brown's evil twin with the security blanket at the podium delivering this speech. And you will see that a lot of the things that he's saying are things that are said almost to comfort himself, really, and to convince himself that the reality that he's choosing to live in is one that still exists or is relevant in any way. Right. Let's keep going on this one.
Our mission as conservatives, therefore, is a country with stronger take-home pay, safer streets, secure borders within a self-reliant nation. And we need that positive vision now more than ever. Because after a decade of Liberals doubling housing costs, doubling food bank lineups, doubling the debt, Islanders cannot afford to eat, heat, or house themselves. Mark Carney promised he would reverse everything he had said and everything his party had done in the preceding decade.
Just a quick little note. Mark Carney never promised that. And you heard the exact point in that sentence where the dickishness came out, right? As soon as he said Mark Carney, pretty much, right? Mark Carney never promised to reverse every single thing that the government did in the decade before. Just wanted to put that out there.
But it was all an illusion. It has been more cost, more crime, more corruption, more of the same. He's doubled Trudeau's deficit, replaced the old carbon tax with a new one, given Canada the only recession in the G7, the worst food inflation in the G7, the highest household debt in the G7, the second highest unemployment in the G7. In fact, under Mr. Carney, ours was the only economy in the G7 to shrink in the first year he was in office. Out of 38 countries the OECD tracks, Mark Carney's economy was the second worst when it came to growth in his first full year in office. The result is that young people cannot afford homes. I was speaking to a number of maritime youth just yesterday who said they cannot afford a home and they don't know when they will ever afford a home. Mr. Carney promised that he would double home building. Yesterday, his own housing agency said that this calendar year, home building has been down 4% compared to the previous year. Insolvency rates are at their worst level since the Great Global Recession, as families are defaulting on payments. Meanwhile, he bails out his condo developer buddies. The Liberal Club gets carve-outs, bailouts, and handouts, while the working class in Canada gets taxes, red tape, and high prices.
I just saw a comment here from Saucy. Good Lord, Poilievre sounds bored with his own propaganda. Yep. He had a lot of trouble getting out that line that was supposed to sell it at the end, eh? Just the passion isn't there, Kit Linda. Yawn. Kit Elaine going, did he say that Canada has the highest debt in the G7? I don't think he did there. Let me just go and take a look at that here, Kit Elaine, because I think I can find that out for you specifically here. He said Canada, the highest household debt. So taking the debt and then I'm guessing not national debt, but average debt that Canadians have on their credit cards and mortgages and stuff like that. We are a very leveraged nation. That is not a lie. Some of the stuff he said about the housing not being built at the rate as promised, that also is true. There has been reports that shows that that's not going well. But again, it's not the federal government's job to build housing. The federal government is doing things to help finance and to help provinces, compensate provinces for fees and things that they would not collect, or to help build the infrastructure under the ground that is required for housing projects to be built. But it's still ultimately up to the provinces to get the houses built or apartment buildings or all of those things of the like. So yeah. Here so again, right, Pierre Poilievre reframing in his own terms what he thinks Mark Carney's promise was. Of course, all of that is not what the promise was. Bringing in the statistics, but the dated ones, right? The only one with a recession in the G7. He is still the only person calling it a recession. And even though Q2 numbers have come up indicating that we are now growing at an annualized rate of about 3.4% or something like that, that number is not good enough for him. He can't be happy with that. He has to go back to the numbers from the previous quarter that didn't say that we are in a recession and still claim that it's a recession. You need to update your talking points, PP, here. Of course, he doesn't talk about our great inflation rate or our credit rating or the fact that the dollar has risen over the past few days. Doesn't talk about the fact that we had the best performing stock market. Doesn't talk about anybody how we're a great destination for investment. All of a sudden, doesn't talk about where we ranked on the list of most admired countries, doesn't mention any of the good things. Certainly didn't have a moment at all in this whole press conference to speak joyously of the fact that food inflation dropped almost a full % between June and July. I mean, considering how often he's been talking about how terrible food inflation is, you think he would celebrate that, but no, it doesn't even barely get a mention. Doesn't help him. Doesn't help him. So again, in this particular moment, right, where we are negotiating with the United States, and Pierre Poilievre keeps on saying we need to negotiate from a position of strength. He's out there filling the public airwaves, trying to convince us, and of course, as we know, everybody on the United States side is listening, telling them that we are weak. In the middle of a trade negotiation with cameras rolling, going to a microphone and say, hey, we're weak. Thanks for your help, Pierre and conservatives. That's, again, please keep on showing us all the ways that you are on Team Canada and that you say that you want to help make things better. Let's keep on going here with what Pierre has to say in this thing.
Crime continues to rage on our once tranquil streets. Rural communities where people didn't even need to lock the door are now worried about danger in their streets.
Okay, again, let's just do this thing right now here. According to Statistics Canada, this was released on July 22nd, so not even a month ago. You think Pierre would have the information. In Canada, police-reported crime is typically measured using two primary indicators: the conventional crime rate, which has historically been the standard measure of crime volume relative to the population, and the Crime Severity Index, or CSI, which measures both crime volume relative to the population and the relative severity of all police-reported crimes by assigning greater weight to more serious offenses. This is the ones that Pierre talks about all the time. In 2025, the CSI decreased 5% to a value of 75.01. This marked the second consecutive annual decrease following an upward trend beginning in 2015 that reached 81.27 in 2023. The conventional crime rate, comprising criminal code offenses but excluding traffic offenses, declined 2% to 5,585 incidents per 100,000 population in 2025. When compared with the CSI, this suggests that the overall severity of crime declined more than the volume of crime, as there was a steeper percentage decline in the CSI. Now, again, you would think that Pierre Poilievre would be running around the country celebrating that. But no, he's still out there trying to convince Canadians that all Canadians are afraid to leave their houses because there's just so much damn crime. And Pierre Poilievre also got, of course, a lot of mileage off auto thefts, because that happened during COVID, principally because given that there wasn't as many new cars being manufactured and there was more demand for new cars, there was more demand for auto thieves to go out and steal newer cars for people who wanted new cars and didn't care where they came from, or people who wanted to sell new cars and didn't care where they came from. Pierre Poilievre was out there telling us, "Oh, it's all because Trudeau are terrible on crime and Liberals, they have terrible bail." No, it was a supply and demand issue. Not enough of us were working to make new cars, and people wanted new cars. So there was a market that opened, and people were willing to steal them. Well, according to Équité Association, auto theft in Canada fell by over 10% during the first half of 2026 compared to the same period in 2025, marking the most significant decline in vehicle thefts in a decade. Data released by Équité Association reveals that coordinated law enforcement operations, federal investments, and upgraded tracking technologies have finally begun to disrupt transnational organized crime rings. However, despite the decline, more than 20,000 vehicles were stolen in the first 6 months of the year, meaning a vehicle is still stolen roughly every 5 minutes nationwide. In Ontario, auto theft is down 8.4% in the first half of the year, according to Équité Association. In Toronto, police say auto thefts have risen 8.5% so far this year. In 2025, auto thefts were down 32.2% by year end. There was a 32.2% decrease in auto thefts in Toronto. Last year, Pierre Poilievre didn't mention it once. Only 3 years ago, over 12,000 vehicles were stolen across Toronto over 12 months, with a total combined value of $790 million, according to Toronto Police. And of the roughly 70,000 vehicles stolen in Canada that year, about 30,000 were stolen in Ontario, according to Équité Association. The downward trend to start 2026 extends across the country, the report found. The number of stolen vehicles in Canada this year decreased by 10.1% compared to this time last year, with Atlantic Canada seeing the smallest decrease, 4.1%, and Alberta seeing the highest, 15.1%, according to the report. So right in the heartland of conservative country, Alberta, auto thefts have decreased more than anywhere else. Do you think Pierre would be happily mentioning that? Though Canada is now seeing auto theft numbers trend down, Monchamp said auto manufacturers need to protect against such cyber attacks to keep them that way. So yeah, there you go. So crime is down, auto theft is down, and Pierre is still out there. Fear, 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 fear. Canada is such a dangerous place. Oh, these liberals. Everything that's going wrong, the liberals have caused this. Really? Can't change his tune, this guy. All right. Go back.
All while the government wastes billions going after law-abiding firearms owner. Immigration remains out of control, overwhelming jobs.
Immigration does not remain out of control. Population is literally decreasing. We have negative population growth.
Housing, and health care. Meanwhile, Conservatives are the only party with real plans to fix these problems. To start with, we're fighting to stop the Liberal Labor Day gas tax increase.
Okay, there is no such thing. There's no such thing as a Labor Day tax increase by the Liberals. There is the expiration of a tax holiday. Pierre Poilievre could stand at the mic and say, this tax holiday expires, we think it should continue. But no, he has to say that Liberals are going to try to increase the tax. Because he is not honest.
Our message to Mr. Carney is do not raise gas taxes next month. Canadians can't afford it. We need to get rid of all gas taxes until Canada Day 2027 to save every family $1,000 over that time. Doing so would boost our economy, allowing small businesses to move goods faster and more affordably. It would allow our factories, already besieged by a weak economy, to move their goods, their products, and their inputs.
Okay. There is nothing about keeping a gas tax going that helps companies move their products faster. Okay. He's just saying stuff. He's just saying stuff here. And again, yeah, we need to keep this gas tax cut going until July 1st, 2027, after which you will accuse the Liberals of trying to raise a gas tax again when that one expires. And since every time a gas tax vacation expires, you call it raising a tax, that means that under you would probably just forego this revenue forever at a time where foregoing government revenue is probably something that's not a wise idea because we're at war. Just it's like Prime Minister Mark Carney said, right? There's only there's only two people that can see the world in action and so believe in the power of free markets and leaving everything to the free markets is the solution. And one of them is a politician that has had no other career but politics for greater than 30 years. It's just, I don't know, man. All right. Again, back to Skippy this morning.
More affordably. We also propose to get rid of all carbon taxes, including on all industry, aluminum, concrete, cement, fertilizer, oil, gas, steel, and much more. Instead of making grand signing ceremonies, we want the Prime Minister to get out of the way and let the 500 projects that his federal government is holding up to get permits so that private investors, workers, and builders can get building.
Okay. He wants you to believe that in a country where he just has signed a pipeline implementation agreement with Danielle Smith, where he just announced the largest green energy deal and the largest capital project in Canadian history at nearly about $70 billion between Churchill Falls and Gull Island, between Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec. When he's just signed 2 free trade deals, one with Ecuador and one with Saudi Arabia, while working on one with the ASEAN nations, the Mercosur group of nations, Thailand and Philippines and India. He wants you to believe that nothing is happening. He needs you to believe that nothing is happening. He needs you to believe that this government is holding up permits for 500 projects. 500. When all we have seen this government do is try to remove barriers, grease the wheels, give money, change regulations, change laws, so that projects can happen more quickly, to remove hurdles and obstacles out of the way. Again, it's just not serious.
Now, Conservatives were relieved that there is now a 3-day delay on U.S. tariffs. And we're looking forward to seeing the new and excellent deal that is being finalized.
Again, just can't help being a dick. Can he? Because if he was really eager, it would sound something like, and we can't wait to hear about the excellent new deal that's being finalized. You know what's coming, right? You know what's coming. Pierre's going to tell us what he thinks a new and excellent deal is actually going to look like. Wait for it. Because it's a doozy. It's a doozy.
One we expect and we believe should include an end to tariffs on Canadians. While we disagree with the Prime Minister making so many concessions, with his giving the Americans 50% of the tariffs on a bridge that Canadian taxpayers paid 100% of the cost to build, we still stand by ready to help. We renew the offer we've been making for over a year that we are here to work with all parties, including the government, to fight for a win for Canada.
Yeah, sure, you're here to help. That's why you're holding a press conference right now, trashing the government. That's why you're holding a press conference right now, about to tell us what you think an excellent tariff deal is. One that has no tariffs on Canadians. Something we've never had. That's where you're setting the bar, right? This is the standard. This is how high Mark Carney has to jump before I recognize that he's done something good. He needs to give us something we've never had. A deal with no tariffs. When the administration south of us has made us very clear that a deal with no tariffs is not a deal that is possible unless we want to be annexed. He's still calling for us to be annexed. A no-tariff deal, the only no-tariff deal is being annexed. Mark Carney will not have succeeded in making an excellent deal unless he gives us a no-tariff deal. Ergo, the deal we want is to be annexed. Literally. While we are negotiating. While we have that 3-day reprieve. That's the time he chooses to do this, and then says that we are willing to help. Just call on us. Just call on us, the party that is led by a guy that won't sit for his national security clearance, NSCOP level national security clearance. Trust us. Take our help. We have shown ourselves to be so helpful at every step along this process. Is this guy for real? Is this guy for real?
And we hope that over the next couple of days, we'll hear the good news that Mr. Carney will have kept his promise and the Canadians will get a even better deal than we had before. That's what he promised. An even better deal than we had before. To me, that should mean no tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, lumber, and an exemption to Buy America. And Conservatives have laid out clear plans to achieve that.
Okay. To me, that's what it means. And Mark Carney needs to meet the promise that I have reinterpreted as being his promise, but that is not anywhere near what it is that he promised. Then he will have been successful. Again, is this guy for real? As Conservatives have laid out clear plans to achieve that. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. They've got platitudes, they've got lines that talk about building stockpiles of stuff, they talk about leveraging stuff. But they've never clear plans. They've never once talked about how they would go about assembling all of this leverage that they would need before going to the negotiating table, nor how much it would cost to do that, nor how much time it would take. If their plans were so clear, we would know. And the reason we don't know, and the reason for which their plans are not clear, is because it would take them well over a decade to assemble that, and the negotiations are happening now. He has no plan. The party has no plan, even less clearly laid out ones. The plan is what we're seeing here. Him showing up to a mic during negotiations to talk down the country, talk down the government, and to set a trap. Here's my version of what the Prime Minister promised you, which is far from the version that the Prime Minister said. Here's my version of what an excellent deal will be, a deal that we have never had and no mortal has ever been able to achieve, particularly with this administration. That's the bar that Mark Carney needs to meet for us to say he has not failed. Why don't you just come out and say a press conference and say Mark Carney has failed? Oh, because we don't have the text yet. Well, you don't have the text yet to do any of this either. Polyev is laying a trap. That's what he chose to do yesterday. Let's go back. Because nothing says you're on Team Canada like laying a trap for the leader of your country as they're negotiating an international trade deal.
By unblocking our resources and unleashing our economy, we can become affordable and autonomous and build the leverage we need to get a deal with the United States. We should present the Americans with the prospect of a Canadian made, a Canadian located strategic mineral and oil reserve available and tailor-made for our tariff-free allies. We have 10 of the 12 NATO-defined strategic minerals needed to fight a war. We have the fourth biggest supply of oil. The Americans need all of those things. Our message should be that we will tailor-make a reserve of all of those resources, and we will make it especially available to those countries that give us tariff-free trade. We should move quickly, though, to unlock the production of these resources by canceling anti-energy laws, by C-69, C-48, truly getting rid of the EV mandates for real, not just calling them a tailpipe emission standard, not renaming them, but getting rid of it. We should also sign on with the Americans to an auto pack, tariff-free auto pack, requiring automakers produce one automobile in Canada for every one they sell here, something that would be both attractive to Canadians and the United States. We should go to 6-month approval times for major projects, with one project having one review.
Again, stupid. Stupid. Who says that a project? Oh, it's a project. Well, all it needs is 6 months. The amount of time of the review it takes, it depends on the nature of the project and the complexity of it. Right? These solutions are too simple. For every dollar you spend, you got to cut $1. It's like, okay, and then what happens when you've cut all the things that you can cut and you still need to spend more because there's a hole in your roof? These are ideas that sound good if you don't think about them too long. But they're just dumb. They're just dumb.
We should bundle all of this up in a Canadian Sovereignty Act, and we should use the aforementioned leverage to get the deal that we want.
Okay, this is, again, stupid. Why would you take all these points of leverage and bundle them together in a law? You don't need to take all your economic advantages and create a law around them to then be able to go and negotiate. There's no act required for this. These are all things that we are already doing. It's like we have already offered preferential access. The United States already had preferential access by virtue of the fact that we were NATO members and NORAD members to critical minerals. We don't need to make a special stockpile of it that we pulled out of the ground and have in a room waiting in a vaulted inventory in order to be able to grant first right of refusal special access, or to say, hey, we want to trade with you in those things and develop this resource. Right? None of these things, again, Kit Elaine, he can't shut up about the auto pact. The auto pact was deemed illegal by the trade counters years ago. And I don't think that the auto pact was ever tariff free. Right? I think they had lower tariffs, but I don't think the auto pact was tariff free. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. I am wrong. Here says the 1965 Canada-United States Automotive Products Agreement, known as the Auto Pact, was tariff-free for qualifying motor vehicles and original equipment parts traded between the two countries. Okay. Interesting. Let's see if it was tariff-free under NAFTA before we got to CUSMA. The North American Free Trade Agreement eventually eliminated tariffs on virtually all qualifying goods traded between Canada and the United States. So yeah, okay. So in that case, tariff-free trade. A return to it, except that the United States has expressly said that it would like a future in which it doesn't purchase any cars that are not made expressly and exclusively in the United States anymore. They're not interested in signing an auto pact with us, right? He's like, it's like, yeah, we're going to do this, and you know, and of course, finally, I need to get Susie to marry me. You make Susie's skin crawl. Yes, but I need to. This is only going to work if I find a way for Susie to marry me. Then it's not going to work, because Susie would rather poke her eyes out with knitting needles than even look at you. I mean, it's not. We're not dealing in reality here. Just like, right? The United States does not want the auto pact. Right? So, and on top of that, if the auto pact was indeed deemed illegal, then, you know, it says here, the auto pact was officially deemed illegal under international trade law by World Trade Organization ruling in February 2000. Following an unsuccessful appeal by Canada, the agreement was permanently dismantled and dissolved on February 19th, 2001. So there you go. So, you know, whether or not we can bring back, you know, giving some grace to Pierre Poilievre, if he's not talking about the auto pact, but an auto pact of some kind that we assume would not be illegal or discriminatory, still doesn't change the fact the United States doesn't want one. They are expressly disinterested. They have said it to our face more than once. So I'm not understanding Pierre's insistence of wanting to climb on top of the United States and trying to have its way with it on this particular issue. It's not going to happen. Again, the other side gets a vote. We want to go back to the auto pact. We do not care to do so, but we want to. Well, it's not going to happen because we've said no. But we want to. You can say that all you want, it still ain't happening. The other side gets a vote. That's why there are the pressure tactics, right? To try to break people's will, because the other side gets a vote. And the other side's not always going to vote your way. This guy, just not serious. All right. Let's continue here because I think he might be getting near the end of his prepared statement.
Have to put our country first, and Conservatives are fighting for Canada. We are here for Canada. We want our country to be affordable at home, safe at home, and strong at home, a nation that is self-reliant, sovereign, and stands on its own 2 feet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from reporters. Please.
All right. So we get to the questions part. That was Pierre. That's what Pierre thought was so important for him to rush out at 11 o'clock in the morning to say, like the whole country was waiting with bated breath for what his thoughts about this were going to be, with so little information out. So let's get to some of the question and answers here, because and here you're going to see Pierre Poilievre as firm and as committed as he was in that, right? We need to talk, negotiate from a position of strength and all that kind of stuff. We got very clear plans. Okay. Let's explore that.
Question each, please.
Kerry Campbell, CBC. Would you support changes to supply managed dairy to try to strike a deal with the Trump administration?
Well, what we do not believe that there should be unilateral concessions to the United States of America.
That was not the question. Nobody asked him if he believed that there should be unilateral. Nobody believes that.
Getting nothing in return. We believe that the United States spends tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies to its farmers, which put our producers at a competitive disadvantage. And we believe in standing up for our farmers on this side of the border, including supply managed farmers. We believe that they produce an excellent product. And we don't accept the view that our farmers are at are getting unfair advantages over the United States. If you look south of the border, they're the ones that are doing massive subsidies that create enormous one-sided advantages in their favor. So we think it's time for our Prime Minister to start fighting for our farmers and putting our own producers first.
Okay, so everything that was in the middle of that answer was good. Could have been delivered with more passion, more efficiency, more effectively. But what he sandwiched it in between was dumb. Why would you assume that the Prime Minister is not out there working for the best interests of the farmers? Why would that be your starting assumption? The Prime Minister would go to the negotiating table without the intent to do that. Right? He doesn't exclusively say that he would protect it, but he seems to hint in there that he would. But the proper way to answer that question would have been to say, would have been to give an emphatic answer at the beginning, stating that you would, in fact, defend the system, and that, and then after that, the reasons why. Because, the United States is, claiming that they're as pure as the driven snow on this, but clearly that is not the case. And particularly with supply management, conservatives keep on saying, it's like it's forcing us to pay more for all of that kind of stuff. I think it applies to meat, poultry, and dairy. I think it is, but particularly with dairy, first of all, the quality of the product isn't fantastic to start with, but also, right, that's we're not doing it to keep prices high, right? We're doing it because there's a reality for our dairy farms and our dairy farmers here that is somewhat a little unique. Annie Dufour, great commentator, journalist, who had 15 years on TVA and Radio-Canada, former parliamentary correspondent, says, PM Carney understood what too many still don't. Supply management isn't optional for Canada. New Zealand could deregulate. Australia tried and paid the price. We share a 9,000-kilometer border with a heavily subsidized U.S. dairy giant that's already hitting us with 50% tariffs. Tear it down now for cheaper milk, you get the collapse of the Canadian family farm. If you don't want the full breakdown of the Canadian family farm, maybe you do something to protect supply management. Now, later on, this was a surprise in the afternoon when we found out that Dominique Leblanc and Jameson Greer were going to have a meeting. It turns out that there was a thing or two to say, and that Dominique Leblanc said this, and now Jameson Greer had just delivered some comments and went inside. So this is a comment that Dominique Leblanc, who's asked a question second, said without Mr. Greer being present at the time. So some people might ask or wonder whether or not Dominique Leblanc would have said the same thing if Mr. Greer was there. I personally believe that he would, simply because, Mr. Leblanc doesn't have that type of reputation, as to say one thing behind someone's back and another thing when they're there. But this is what he had to say.
Just on the question of supply management, I am very confident in these discussions, and as we finalize the final text, as Ambassador Greer said, the Prime Minister was very clear. We needed to protect supply management. We needed to ensure that the supply management regime remained entirely intact, and I'm confident that that's the case.
All right, so the minister is confident that supply management remains intact. You have the leader of the Bloc Québécois outright stating that it is his belief that Quebec, for sure, must have somehow been betrayed. Okay. Again, based on what information? Not sure. Let me see here. I'm just going to go back to the press conference with Pierre Poilievre and see if there was anything different there. Okay, and this is the one here. The answer to the question, and the question and the answer that Pierre Poilievre gives, that makes it very clear, if it wasn't before, that this is definitely an effort to set a trap, to create a standard that there is no way that the Prime Minister can meet, which means that the Conservative verdict, once the text is released and everything happens, is going to be somehow that the Prime Minister did indeed fail. All right.
Oh, you got it. Okay. 1 second. I'm just going to pull up my question.
Hi, Vivian from The Guardian. Earlier you said that you were hoping for a better deal from the trade negotiations. What would that look like for you?
Well, let me just frame why I said a better deal. Mr. Carney made that promise. He said, and I quote, that we will have a better deal than we had before. Well, before we had basically no tariffs on goods coming from Canada to the United States. So a better deal would at least have to start with that. We need zero tariffs on aluminum, steel, autos, lumber, and
We've never had zero tariffs on lumber for like something like the last 20, 30 years. He's expecting this.
a full exemption to Buy America. Now, that's, in fairness, a lot of the things I just described are things that were agreed to by President Trump in the previous CUSMA agreement.
No, that's not true.
And or achieved by earlier conservative governments like Prime Minister Harper. So Mr. Carney has set that bar for himself. We want him to keep his promise and get an even better deal for Canada than we had before.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. Even better deal for Canada than we had before. Before what? Before Donald Trump was reelected president? Before Donald Trump was elected president the first time? Before Brian Mulroney negotiated NAFTA? When? Because if I am looking at the Prime Minister of Canada saying that we are going to have a better deal than we had before, or that we've got now, it would be the deal that we had at the time that the Prime Minister became Prime Minister, or made the promise. Not some deal, a deal or close to 2 deals ago, negotiated by another Prime Minister that the current President of the United States has already ripped up. Right? Let's go back.
And conservatives are willing to do anything we can to help him keep that promise.
Maria Sarusi, TV News. Has the Prime Minister briefed you at all during these negotiations since the threat of Section 338 tariffs?
No. No, in fact, we're here, and I reiterate my offer. Conservatives have offered to help the Prime Minister since the very beginning.
Again, this is a lie. The reality is that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau brought all the leaders of the opposition parties into a room for a meeting. And during that meeting, Pierre Poilievre was still trying to make the case in front of the other opposition leaders that they should go with his plan better than the conservative government, than the liberal government. And then that meeting was over, and the conservatives did not a single thing, did not lift a finger, didn't lift a fingernail in all that time to do anything to help. Pierre Poilievre recently took a trip to the United States, which was a disaster because we found out he has been so insular, he's never developed any contacts there. Right? It's not that he didn't work his contact list. He doesn't have one to work. And since then, he's done nothing to help either. Name one initiative that the conservatives have proactively taken up on their own to go out and make a case for Canada, particularly with our American counterparts. Pierre Poilievre will brag like he brags in this press conference that when he went to the United States, he didn't talk critically about the Prime Minister. And yes, okay, fine. That's literally the job requirement and the minimum he could do. But every time he opens his yap here, and it's recorded, and it's digital, so it's forever, and the whole world can see it, is not being helpful. He certainly doesn't lack any reserve in criticizing the Prime Minister or, again, telling the world how Canada is broken. That we're just ripe for the picking. And they could do it too because we're stupid. right? I'm just. And then further on in this press conference, you're going to see something else that Pierre Poilievre tries to do. So right now I'm looking like I'm on Team Canada. We're looking forward to this excellent deal, and we reiterate we're willing to help at every time. But there's a tone, there's an edge, there's a nastiness underneath it. You can see it, you could feel it. It's palpable. He might as well had a sign in front of the podium that says, "We are here in bad faith."
Done it numerous times in our phone calls. When I went to the United States of America, I very clearly refused to criticize him on foreign soil. I briefed him on my visit and my meetings with governors and other American leaders. And our MPs have reached out again and again to the government to offer any help we can. Richard Bragdon here is the chair of the Canada-U.S. Parliamentary Friendship Group. He's been continually offering his help, but Mr. Carney has refused to have any help from anybody. But we still want to make sure that he keeps his word and gets the great deal, the even better deal that he promised Canadians.
And right there is pretty much everything you need to know about this guy. Mr. Carney doesn't seem to be wanting to take any help. He's got this whole advisory council. He's got 3 conservatives on it, at least. 3 conservatives that were members of the party. I'm sure there are other conservative people in the business world right now on that council. Doesn't want no help from anybody. Certainly had no problem bringing Scott Moe to China. Heck, Scott Moe was in Asia for some whole other thing, and he decided to alter his travel plans just so he could be in China with the Prime Minister. But now the Prime Minister just does it all on his own, thinks he has all the answers, doesn't want any help. It's not that the Prime Minister doesn't want help from anybody. He doesn't want help from you. He doesn't want help from you and your party, Pierre, because he knows who you and your party are. He knows that you and your party are the type of people that would choose a day like this and say, hey, this is a good time to set a trap. This is the time to set a standard so ridiculously and hilariously high that nobody on the planet Earth has been able to meet it, and so far looking like nobody could. And it's not like Pierre has the skill set to be able to achieve the objective that he claims, the standard that he's holding Mark Carney to. A deal, no concessions from us, and no tariffs. That's the only thing that's acceptable. I'm sorry, but basically what you are doing when you are doing that, when Pierre laid this trap, Pierre thought he thought he was clever. But what Pierre just did right here is he just eliminated himself from any further conversation. When you come out at a time like that and you say that the only standard for success is a standard that is impossible to achieve, one that you yourself couldn't even achieve, let alone someone else, and someone that has way more well-equipped than you to achieve it. What you are basically saying is that I have nothing constructive, meaningful, or substantive to add to this discussion, and I will not at any point during it. So it's best to just disregard everything I say. He's eliminated himself from serious participation in this debate. He wants Canadians to think of him and his party as a government in waiting, and then says the only way Canada can succeed is this. Let's say this government failed, and then he did become the government. That standard would still apply, right? Oh, no. You could bet that standard would change. The standard he would set for himself would be way lower than that. A serious political party does not take a situation in which there's a trade negotiation with a nation that is openly expressed wishing us harm, to the point that even wishing that we no longer existed, and then spend his time criticizing the federal government, the only people at the negotiating table at the time, and on top of that, setting a trap that seems again to send the message to the entire country that you are cheering and wishing for their failure. You are trying to create, manufacture, and engineer a situation in which the outcome cannot be anything other but failure. There's no way you're on Team Canada if you're doing that. There is no way you're on Team Canada if you're doing that. This is a matter of choices and priorities here. Damn fam. And Pierre has made them very clear what his choices and his priorities are, and they are not to be helpful. It's a trap. And it's a trap that likely is going to snare him, because now nobody can take him seriously in this debate. This is an opportunity for him to shine. This is an opportunity for him to break out of that persona and show that when the cards are on the table, when we are caught between a rock and a hard place, when our back is up against the wall, that he can stand and defend for Canada. He can punch Donald Trump as hard as he punches Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney in defense of Canada. He can't. He can't and he won't. He is signaling here that he can't and he won't. No wonder people are leaving his party. No wonder people that actually want to contribute something positive to Canada are leaving his party. He's not there for that. He is not there for that, and it is showing up. Get some cups. Because, again, on that episode last week that we had, Polls, Polyev, where we talked about those 3 or 4 polls that came out in that week and a half period that indicated that things were going very bad for Pierre, and that I was waiting for the 338 Canada numbers to come out to see how that would affect him, because I would assume that this could not be good. If you want to know the reason why Pierre Pellerin went out there yesterday and did this, laid a trap, rather than picked up an oar to row in the same direction as Team Canada, why Pierre Pellerin went out and set a standard that is so ridiculous it excludes him from further consideration in this debate, but a standard that guarantees that the Prime Minister fails. If you want to know why Pierre Pellerin wants the Prime Minister to fail so openly and brazenly, that he's willing to set this type of trap out in public. Well, maybe this, damn fam, is the reason. You see that? You see what happened in 1 week alone? See that sharp uptick? See this sharp downtick? Boom. It's just 1 point. Well, 2 points for the Conservatives, down from 35% to 33%. Liberals up from 44 to 45. In the space of 1 week, we went from a 9-point gap to a 12-point gap. A 12-point gap on the polling aggregator. This is not good for Pierre Pellerin. Liberals 45, Conservatives 33, NDP 11, Bloc 6, Greens 3, PPC 1. And when you look at the seat projection, oh, ouch. Look at this. What that 3 extra percent shift represents. Liberals on August 9th would showed up as picking up 198 seats if an election were held that week. 1 week later, 219 is the total. That's 21 seats more in 1 week. Conservatives on the 9th would have picked up 106 seats. Now they pick up 87. That is by far the lowest number they have had on this graph. The Liberals tying, well, not tying, a little lower than their highest. They had hit 221 in May twice. But still, among close to record highs, Conservatives setting new record lows. It's an act of desperation. It's an act of desperation. The numbers are really interesting. They're showing, if we're looking at the national map here, if you're looking at Atlantic Canada, the Conservatives would be wiped out everywhere except for 2 seats in New Brunswick. Conservatives showing 10 seats in Quebec, 24 in Ontario, 5 in Manitoba, 11 in Saskatchewan, 28 in Alberta, 7 in British Columbia. 7 in British Columbia. Probably not helping the federal Conservatives in British Columbia, the fact that the provincial party is a complete and total utter mess. We've talked about them a few times. It's still getting worse what's going on with them. More purging, more people leaving, people being kicked out. Alberta showing 9 seats going to non-conservative parties, 7 for the Liberals, 2 for the NDP, 2 NDP seats in Alberta. Saskatchewan showing 3 Liberal seats all of a sudden. This is going in the utterly wrong direction for Pierre. The polls are terrible. The seat count is terrible. The fundraising is going down. He's losing more MPs. Be really interesting to see, by the way, what that Brantford Brant Six Nations riding, the one that's held by Larry Brock, riding that has gone conservative. I think since 1985 or something. This is a conservative stronghold, right? This is equivalent to Toronto St. Paul's for the Liberals back in the day, right? People were saying that this one is a Liberal stronghold. If Liberals move here, it's done. It's done. Party will never recover from this one. Brantford Brant South is writing like that. Just taking a look here. Has got any more? I can't see it here, unfortunately. They're only showing. I'm guessing it was Brantford Brant South Six Nations. I'm guessing the borders were redrawn, and it's now called just Brantford South. But yeah, this has been conservative writing for maybe about like last 25 years or so. If we are looking at what 338 Canada is telling us about Brantford Brant South here, I am looking at the public opinion polling, and it has now gone from a lean conservative to an outright toss-up. If an election were held today, Conservatives 42, Liberals 42, NDP 10, Greens 4, PPC 1. This is a seat that the Conservatives could very well lose. Chicoutimi-Lafiard is looking like a seat that the Conservatives can very much lose and probably will. Those seats, if they are lost, they will have been lost in actual votes. Coupled with the fundraising numbers, coupled with the drop in seat count if an election were held today? Not good. Looking up at Chicoutimi-Lafiard, it says right now, Liberals 33, Bloc Québécois 32, Conservatives 28. In all the districts, by the way, that are up, Conservatives are showing decrease from the previous election. Conservatives picked up 34 in Chicoutimi-Lafiard in 2025. They would pick up 28 now. That's not great. North Vancouver Capilano, federal riding there. If an election were held today, Conservatives would pick up 27% in 2025. They picked up 33.7%. And of course, in Beaches, East York, if an election were held today, the Conservatives would pick up 15% of the vote, but the last time it picked up 23.5%. So we have 3 by-elections coming. Conservatives are probably going to lose one of the seats, and in all 3 seats, they're going to have most likely a declined turnout and declined popular vote. This is the guy that they want to go into the future with. Fine. But this is not serious opposition. This is a man who does not want to seriously participate in the debate. This is a man who is signaling that he is going to be a gutter snipe and unhelpful in any way. I do not see the logic, I do not see the rationality, and I do not see the strategy in this decision from Pierre to eliminate himself from serious contention and participating and consideration in this debate. The only thing I can whittle this down to that makes some logical sense is that Pierre Poilievre, seeing these numbers, is completely desperate, like I said, desperation. And the one number that he can't control because he can't make people like him more, I think that has been clearly established after 22 years of Pierre Poilievre, to use a conservative formulation. The one thing that his political survival does depend on is him getting those fundraising numbers back up from the second quarter. The ones that were disastrous. And the only way you can do that is by going to the extreme poles of any subject, like this, as soon as there's an announcement that there could be any progress whatsoever, going out there and setting a standard so that any progress can be characterized as a failure, while punching down on the nation. The only reason I can choose for somebody, I can come up with somebody to do that, that would be logical and rational, is because they're doing it for the money. He's performing for tips. Usually that's my beat. Get off my turf, Pierre. So there you have it, kids and cubs. Some very interesting perspectives from people in the community, in the business community, and who understand international trade and who are bringing some perspective, stating primarily positive things, of course, with some cautions and some caveats about how things are going to date based on the very little that is in the public sphere. And based on what seems to be the view of the U.S. Trade Representative, that things are somewhat positive. Dominique Leblanc posted one tweet that said the chief trade negotiator and I met this morning with United States. The chief trade negotiator I met. Let's try that again. The chief trade negotiator, which would be Janice Charette, and I met this morning with United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer in Washington, D.C. We are working collaboratively towards a finalized agreement between our two countries. Efforts remain ongoing. There's a picture of them shaking hands. Both of them look relaxed and happy. Seems that it might be a decent working relationship between the two, despite them being at adversarial purposes. Mark Carney, surprisingly, posted something out with the note that Dominic LeBlanc had embedded in it, saying, "Congratulations, Mr. LeBlanc and Ambassador Greer, for the significant progress in Canada-United States trade negotiations. Canada entered these Let's try that again. Canada entered these discussions with the best overall trade terms. We are now moving towards an agreement that reinforces that Canadian advantage, including by securing the best terms in each of Canada's most important strategic sectors and providing greater certainty about our future trading relationship." This might give you a little hint there, probably not tariff-free, but if we are best in class or best in world with everybody else, on each of those ones, Pierre can turn around and say, well, no tariff is the only standard. Everybody else will look at that and say, well, you know what? Yes, there are still tariffs, but we had the best deal compared to other nations in the world before that, and now this one is even better than that. And I'm going to guess that that is the standard that the Prime Minister is going to use, not better than the best deal that we ever had once at some point in the last 30 years, as engineered most likely by a Conservative Prime Minister. But yes, cautiously optimistic about that. Jameson Greer also had a statement to say. Hopefully, I can find that for you very quickly. This is a longer show than I had hoped for, but there was a lot of developments yesterday, surprisingly, because I didn't think that there were going to be any very much. Have to state as well that I've seen a couple of scrums with some premiers, Premier Houston and Premier Scott Moe, both of them Conservative premiers, both of them seeming to be, again, very happy with what they heard from the Prime Minister after their discussions with them yesterday. So that is also very positive here. This here, we have the statement that Mr. Greer made together with Dominic LeBlanc at his side. So hopefully we will bring you this here. Because this was the U.S. take on it. Now again, kids and cubs, we keep on reminding you, always have the U.S. take with a grain of salt. But this is what we got here.
We're very happy with where we ended up. We worked together across agencies, the American government, the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Treasury, myself, the Chief of Staff, with the President. We had a number of phone calls with the Prime Minister. We're looking at documentation at this point. I have responsibilities to brief Congress on what documents might look like, speaking with American stakeholders, businesses, unions, etc. We feel confident that we've reached an agreement that will not only continue to protect American workers, American jobs, American supply chains, but really strengthen the North American economy and create a situation where North America will continue to be an energy powerhouse, a manufacturing powerhouse, and align on important things like economic security and digital security. So while we certainly, I think, have eliminated some of the irritants that we've had over the past year, we also are taking a strong foot forward on these steps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci, Jameson.
Bonne journée.
Merci. À bientôt.
All right. Sorry for the sound. Wasn't as loud as it could be. One thing we learned during these trade negotiations is that Jameson Greer actually speaks very good French. You could see at the end there, he said a couple of words in French just as he was leaving out. You will notice that a couple of times in that exchange, when he was talking about things from the Canada side, he was looking to make eye contact with Dominic LeBlanc, have Dominic LeBlanc confirm that with a head shake, which did happen. He said there was one part in it that caught my attention. It was hard to detect because the volume was great there. But he says, all these things that are great for the American economy and for the North American economy went up, and it sort of like had like a question mark there, like he wasn't sure that Canada would say that it is best for the North American economy. But yeah, that was out there. So again, if the United States Trade Representative is saying we're happy with what's going on, let's hope that continues on upwards to Donald Trump, with him being happy about that too. That would be very, very, very helpful. Okay, I'm noticing that Kit Uncover said something here. Check your true eager. Okay, but I'm not supposed to. I don't know what I'm supposed to check it for. So I need another little hint, Kit Uncover, if you could. There you go. So Kits and Cubs, that's what I got so far for you. Hopefully you found this sort of overview of what's been going on so far informative. Took a little longer than I had hoped for, but there was really a lot going on, and I did want to bring you those 4 specific interviews because they come from people that have expertise and knowledge specifically in these sectors, and they are a calmer, more rational way to sift through all the information that we are going to get without having to read things into people's motives or fill in blanks with things that are not there yet, and that we don't know are there yet, in order to arrive at some conclusion. It gives us some food for thought, gives us some boundaries, some guidelines, some things to look out for, some various areas of future negotiation to talk about. Like, for example, when Miss, I think Dawson, I think it was, talking about how it is that this was going to create an opportunity for premiers to be making more requests of the federal government. All these pieces that are going to have to be put together in order to get the premiers to agree to this, and then to get this implemented. If that is indeed the case, I am going to be particularly interested to see if there are any clauses in this agreement that protect us should the United States unilaterally decide to break the agreement. And see what types of recourse that we have put for ourselves there, if we could. If that was permitted there. Lots of suggestions here from the chat as well. Like, for example, if we're putting booze back on the shelves, they should put a small tax on American alcohol that goes towards local distilleries, or we should put the booze on the bottom shelves. See, the Newfoundland and Labrador Premier, according to Kit Uncover the News, says that all provinces have agreed to put U.S. booze back on shelves now. Seen some here, industry rep seeming to indicate that steel tariffs might go down to 25%. Again, not particularly. I mean, again, it is better, but I'm not sure if down from what it was to 25% would make a material difference here. All I have here is from Kid Uncover the News, 25% U.S. tariffs on steel, progress, but still very difficult, industry rep. So that's what I mean. It's like, it's whether or not, a lot of this is whether or not some of these tariff cuts are actually going to mean anything or be symbolic. Kitsasi saying longer is better than incomplete. Why, thank you. I really appreciate that. All right, so I think now, unless I can find the thing that Kit Uncover was specifically talking about for me to look at, I think that's pretty much all I have for you today. Oh, okay, I see. Maybe it's this thing from Tom Mulcair. Okay, I will assume it's that, Kit Uncover. So I will play it, Tom Mulcair, leaving us with something. Elaine saying you should have Flavio back on for another episode. I have asked him so many times while this has been going on, but clearly I would assume that he's an extremely busy man at this point, and that we, as much as we love him and as much as he may like us, may be the least of his priorities at the moment. However, good news, programming note, I think sometime on Monday we might have Olga Nestorova of the Honest News Network. So I was able to get somebody you've been asking for, Kits and Cubs. But yeah, Flavio, I think might be a while yet before we can get him. But we are definitely hoping to be able to get him. We do send messages now and then. You know, he responds and stuff, but he's just very, very busy. So here we go. Thomas Mulcair, and let's see what it is he has to say.
By the way, every single T could be crossed and I dotted, and Trump could still tear the thing up when it gets to his desk in the Oval Office. So everybody understands that we're dealing with a mercurial figure who doesn't pay any attention to detail, who always spins what he's just done or what's going to happen. I mean, you know, remember the fence between the U.S. and Mexico that Mexico was going to pay for? I mean, that sort of stuff, right? And so we're dealing with a huckster, a con man. And so his negotiators are really serious people. Jameson Greer, you don't get much more serious and capable than that. But what's going to be in the deal, and is going to be enough to satisfy Trump? Because the more he boasts about what he believes is in it, without having seen it either, the tougher it is. He's painting himself into a corner. I do think that at the end of the day, the one saving grace here is Donald Trump needs a win with a close friend and ally. He's getting pummeled by the Iranians in the Gulf of Hormuz. He looks like, you know, a ditherer and somebody who had no plan when he went in there. So being able to go into his midterm saying, no, I know how to work with the world. Canada's a longtime friend and ally, and we've got a new trade deal with them. That could actually be in his favor. But if he knocks over the table and says, we're not playing anymore, that's absolutely within the realm of possibility. By the way,
So there you go. Again, and the fact that there's so much optimism doesn't preclude that from happening even here now at this stage. So again, gird your loins. Kits and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring. Word of mouth is priceless. Tell your peeps and poops all about us by sharing the good word. Thank you so much. And if you would, please scan this QR code. It will bring you to our YouTube page where you can click on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. That helps us a lot. Also, click on our notification bell and select all so that you can get all the information that we have and all notifications when we have something up for you. And if you are watching, but not watching live, but fewer than 7 days after the original broadcast, and you are watching on your phone or tablet, please swipe left on the comment section and offer us some hype points. You can do that 3 times a week, and that allows smaller channels like ours to find broader audiences. Thank you so very much. And if you like what we do and would like to support us in our bid to do more, if you appreciate the amount of research that went into producing a show of this type with that much information and the interviews and curating them, please do send us a little token of your appreciation, forms of a toonie or two that might be able to fill my beaver cup with some hot chocolate. I would really appreciate that. Or Mr. Grizzly's cup with some dark bitter coffee. I'm sure he would appreciate that. And if there happens to be a little extra left over, we use it to cover our internet fees and subscription services and things of the like in order to bring this show to you a few times a week and have this lovely space where we get together and share and support each other. So if you could offer us a little support, we would be very grateful. And you can do that by scanning our QR code, which will bring you to our coffee page, which is our tip jar. We affectionately call it the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund because it's always important to keep your beaver moist. So if you would like to do that, scan that QR code. It brings you to ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you can live a one-time or a recurring donation that you can stop anytime you want to support us here at the Beaver Lodge to produce this show for you. You can also support us via YouTube by stickers, super chats, and of course memberships. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing and you are avoiding the USCE Tech Bros, a direct transfer from your bank to ours using our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, is the way to go. Damn fam. And that way we get 100% of your donation. So thank you so very much for all that you do to keep us going. Let's see, what else do we have? Because democracy is something that you do. Going to keep this one short today since we're talking about trade. Let's talk about Ambassador Doucheface and our commons.petition, our commons.ca petition number E7531, the link for which we will include in the chat right here. And it says here, boom, 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 that we are now at, let's see, taking a look, 243,193 signatures. Signatures slowing down a little bit. That's to be expected after the big rush where it appears in the newspapers and everybody join. At this point, it becomes up to us to ensure that it keeps circulating so that it beats that record and becomes the highest signed petition, at least our commons.ca petition in Canadian history, which will send one heck of a message out there. There you go. And cover. The news says U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has warned allies, saying they were either with us or against us on Washington's push to isolate Iran economically. Yeah, blah, blah, whatever. Seriously, whatever. Okay. So yeah, please sign the petition. Please circulate it. All that good stuff. Let's see. Words of wisdom, I guess, kids and cubs. Again, with all of this stuff, lots of information coming. We don't know anything until there's anything actually on paper. Lots of things are speculation. Lots of things, yes, information might be coming out and leaking through approved sources or sources that are credible. Not saying not to believe everything or anything, but again, the same wisdom that I offered you yesterday. Listen to everything, have it up here, but don't file anything yet in the mental filing cabinet as being the standard against which you've got to measure every statement. Just take it in what people are doing without getting too excited, too depressed, too optimistic at the moment, because a lot again can still happen. And again, I said, we're dealing with a shit disturbing administration. So there can always be, and a TV president, so there can always be a last second cliffhanger or plot twist or anything like that. Hopefully the rest of this is smooth sailing. Hopefully we didn't concede too much. Hopefully what we got in exchange is obvious, so people can't keep on saying we didn't get anything in exchange. And hopefully it is objectively a better deal than we had prior to this negotiation that we can point to. And hopefully in the best of worlds, we may have gotten one or two additional benefits, like, for example, what we got last time, decoupling the obligation to sell a specific percentage, predetermined percentage of any new oil that we bring online to the United States. Hopefully, we cleverly negotiated one or two things like that the United States didn't think was a big deal, but to us actually was, and will change a lot of things. That would be the best case scenario at this moment that we can hope for. Tariff rates that are significantly lower, because the expecting zero is unrealistic. The other party gets a vote, and they said that was not going to happen. And hopefully some enforcement mechanisms or some surety included in the agreement somehow, that the United States will not go back on its word, or that we will have some recourse with teeth should it do so. All right. Those are my words of wisdom. Could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, can I please have you say all together, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Let's go. Oh, yeah. A little bit of cautious optimism in there. I like it. I like it. Here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, since we're back, a little bit more of Canadians who make us proud. A couple of entries here from the Governor General of Canada's website, some Order of Canada recipients. We have Christopher Gaze from Vancouver, British Columbia, who's a visionary arts leader whose career spans 5 decades of performance, education, and advocacy. As founding artistic director of Vancouver's Bard on the Beach, a Shakespeare festival, he built it into a major cultural force, championed youth outreach, and strengthened British Columbia's arts community through mentorship, public engagement, and dedication. We have Dwayne Michael Gibson from Toronto, who's a globally recognized Guinness World Record-setting hip-hop artist, author, and educator whose empowering music, books, and youth programs have reached over 4,000 schools. Founder of Stay Driven, he motivates students nationwide through messages of resilience, leadership, literacy, and positive decision-making, blending artistry with meaningful social impact. Way to go! What a wonderful initiative. I'm definitely fully behind that. Wow. That's something that definitely deserves to be recognized. Good stuff. We have Trevor Ariel Hurwitz from Vancouver, British Columbia, who has had a transformative impact on the treatment of complex brain disorders. Considered the founder of neuropsychiatry in British Columbia, he created the province's first programs in the discipline, which remained at the forefront nationwide. He is also a patient advocate and advisor on medical, legal, and ethical issues in psychiatry. We definitely need people who do good jobs in that. So that is definitely, it's so interesting to see that we have so many people in this country doing fantastic things. Prakash Vinodre Joshi, who has made outstanding contributions to the fields of materials testing and quality control inspection. A distinguished technologist, he developed innovative testing procedures that advanced new materials technologies, particularly in the construction industry. An author and musician, he's also widely recognized for his longstanding involvement with the Indo-Canadian community. Well, there you go. Some wonderful Canadians doing some things of which we should all be proud, and we should be encouraging everybody to do more of. That's all I have for you today, kids and cubs. Amour et bisous. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.